everyone. Welcome to the Felicity, Optimist versus Cynic podcast with us, your hosts, Melissa and Fish. This is a Felicity rewatch podcast. We'll watch an episode each week and join you here to talk about it. And just our classic reminder, not a spoiler-free podcast. So you may hear things that come up in future episodes that get dropped or referenced here. And that's how this podcast works. But if you enjoy Felicity and you know the show, this is a great place to be. I am Melissa, and I'm here with my fabulous co-host, Fish. Fish, how's it going today?
Today is going well. I don't know if I've mentioned it on the podcast yet. I probably have. But I've got a new puppy, and she and I are just, we're starting to bond, and it's making me happy. So, yeah, it's good.
Yay. Welcome to the family.
Her name is Emma.
Oh, hello, Emma. Rough. Yeah, so she's a new addition to our podcast, and sometimes Fish has to go off and chase her, and it's always fun.
It's true. I have to cut those parts out of the podcast because I'll say things to Melissa like, wait, I have to go. I have to hold on. Because I hear these little feet pattering, and I have to grab her before she goes and pees somewhere that she should not.
Yeah. So we appreciate you and your efforts. And, in the meantime, we'll try to hold down the fort and talk about this episode of Felicity, which was season 2, episode 3, called Ancient History. This one originally aired October 10th, 1999. It was written by Andrea Newman, directed by Keith Samples, which is a name I don't believe we've seen before. And here's the synopsis. After a curriculum discussion with another student, Ruby, who is Amy Smart, Felicity realizes she's drawn to art rather than pre-med. Changing her courses then puts Felicity in the same class as Noel, who fears she is out to sabotage him. Meanwhile, Julie finally moves out of the loft, much to Sean's chagrin.
Does she?
She doesn't.
Does she?
The synopsis tells us lies. They missed whoever wrote this missed the last 10 minutes. That's okay though. We'll correct it.
Yeah. I'm like, did I fall asleep and miss a part?
Yeah. Somebody who writes these needs to actually watch the whole show, which could explain a couple of the synopses we've read along the way.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, otherwise, I do think they had a good start to this description. But what stood out to you, Fish? Where do you want to begin?
So, I guess I'll just start with a bit of an overarching statement. First of all, I was a little disappointed that this was not about Egypt.
Oh.
There were no pyramids referenced. But clearly, Noel is the ancient history. It goes back, a whole, 8 months of her life.
Yeah.
So that's fine. That's fine. But I guess my overall assessment of this one is that it was just kind of flat for me.
Okay.
There weren't really any emotional moments. There were a couple that we laughed at, but I didn't think, my big funny characters didn't come in. So I didn't think it was that much of a comedy. And there weren't any sort of dramatic, like heart-rending moments either. Thought there were a couple of, good conversations, but I don't know. It just this one didn't speak to me emotionally the way that I think a lot of other episodes have. But we did get a lot of, I think, forward movement.
Yeah.
Between the relationships of the characters.
Yeah.
So
I think that was the point of this one. I mean, I think we've had a lot of big emotional things happen in the previous episodes. Even like, yes, episode 1 and episode 2 of this season certainly had emotional moments and blow-ups, but we're also coming off of the end of season 1 where that was really heightened. And I think they had some work to do here to get us to like reset. We're hitting the Felicity and Ben breakup or whatever that was, whatever they were. I don't know. But they're not together now, and it's basically the show hitting reset and saying, okay, we're gonna start. We have to go somewhere from here, and it can't just be all of these like heightened conflicts and really emotional moments. They have to restart and earn their way back to that. So I think this isn't necessarily an episode that when I'm rewatching it, I'm like, yay, ancient history. Um, but I think it was really important. And actually, I was more impressed with it on this watch than I've been previously because I just saw how much heavy lifting they were trying to do. In like, you really do need to earn those payoffs of the emotional moments. And so they're starting back from like no momentum now.
Yeah.
Um, you know, doing what they can with it. So I'd be really curious to see if you feel like the forward movement made was plausible and made sense to you.
Yeah. Some of it I think
Mm-hmm.
did. I I think I think that the Noel plot line maybe went a little fast, but I can also understand the way they set it up, that maybe it was, I don't know, if there'd been a few more days or weeks in between and he wasn't wearing the exact same shirt,
Mm-hmm.
it would have seemed a little bit more plausible.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought the Ben and Julie stuff definitely was, and I can see they're setting something up there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but maybe we should start with, we get a first look at Felicity's new hair
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah,
Megan's opinion of it.
the whole opening this episode is people giving opinions on Felicity's hair, which is also interesting because people outside of the show, like like this is scripted, but in the non-scripted way, a lot of people were sharing opinions about Felicity's new haircut. But that reception wasn't happening yet at the time when this script was being played out. So these people they're making it a point to make a big deal out of her haircut on the show, and that will end up matching the reception of it and by the audience.
Maybe in terms of number of people commenting,
Yeah,
I
like
don't
amount
know
of
that the,
mention of it. Mm-hmm.
yeah, I don't know that the same reception happened, because we know they
Mm-hmm.
lost a lot of viewership over this,
Mm-hmm.
which I do think is a little silly.
But
But
it's also interesting because I think from what I understand, so I don't think was really paying attention to how this was playing out at the time, but I think there's more than one thing happening here. Felicity gets a major haircut. Yes. She also is now broken up with Ben and not with Noel, which basically was the plot for the entire show up until this way.
yeah,
And if I correct me if I'm wrong, listeners, did they switch nights that they were airing the show right around now? I thought
oh,
I saw that somewhere. I thought they actually made a change in the scheduling of the show. So I think there were multiple things that were conflated into this. And so I think somehow this got to be Felicity's haircut ruins the show. But I think that might be an oversimplification of some of the factors that were happening at this point.
yeah. And there's one other thing that I noticed that I guess I'll mention it now, but I think we can come back to it later. I think well, I'm hoping they'll kind of figure out what they're doing with her look, because I feel like she has the haircut,
Mm-hmm.
and then she kind of goes, she starts dressing in more kind of like boxy masculine clothes.
Oh.
And but then there's a few scenes, especially with the registrar,
Mhm.
where she has like this red tank top on and it is very feminine. Her makeup's very feminine. Um, and I thought it was just a very interesting choice that she cuts her hair short. She starts dressing more in a masculine way, and then they introduce a lesbian character.
Mhm.
And so I'm just sort of wondering
Huh.
if the show had, a huge fan base in the lesbian community and that somehow, you know, affected their choices. And I also wonder about the people who continue to watch it, if it actually was, you know, appealing, or if, you know, a lot of people just said, meh, because the other thing, you just said, she doesn't have Noel or Ben.
Mhm.
There's also not another man
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah,
So,
they really are hitting the reset button completely. So if you feel like you understood what this show was all through season one and then the first two episodes of this season, you come back now and it's like, oh, where are they going to go with her character, right? Because she's actively avoiding Ben. She's in this episode starting to get into some sort of a workable place with Noel as a maybe friend, but they're just like they can talk, they can be in the same room
mhm,
without ripping each other's eyes out or without Noel ripping her eyes out. She is actively not near Julie.
mhm,
Um, she's got this relationship with Elena, but when you think about who she's on good terms with here, it's Felicity's starting over. She's even changed her major. She is starting over in so many ways. And so if you've been a fan of the show to this point, you would have to acknowledge this as like oh, okay, we're starting fresh. And where are we going from here? I guess we'll find out. And you have to trust the writers to take it in a direction that'll be interesting to you.
mhm. And I think maybe the 90s audience wouldn't, I don't know if they wouldn't have accepted this or exactly what would have happened, but I think it would have been really interesting if they had introduced, a like a female relationship at this point, right?
Mm-hmm.
We would have just been able to see like another side of Felicity. And so that I think
You
is
mean
something,
romantic or do you mean friendship?
I mean, romantic. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's something that I think we would just kind of expect today. Um, that's something that could happen. And I don't think it's something that was expected back then.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it might work out, it might not. But at least to be able to look at that side um, of relationships and of culture and what's going on at the time. I kind of feel like they were going in that direction, but knowing the time period, I I recognized that they weren't.
Yeah, that's just not something that, let's see, I'm trying to think if there's any other character in this whole show that is gay. Um,
Well, Javier.
there's oh my gosh, yes, Javier. There's also a storyline that'll evolve later about querying whether a character is gay. But yeah, Javier.
uh,
Javier is what we have. I mean, it's interesting that they have Bridgid in here. I kind of like Bridgid actually. Um,
yeah.
but I guess just you know, since we started with Felicity's hair, I guess a couple things worth saying. One is I mean, people who are fans of the show now, there's a mix of reaction about what people feel about the haircut. Um, a lot, obviously there was a drop in viewership. A lot of people didn't like it. Some people do. So it's not everybody hates it. But what I do think is really interesting is that because of just, this confluence of events and, the haircut and the dropping of the ratings, I believe at this time the network actually made a stipulation that, their lead actresses could not significantly change their appearance during their run on the show because of this.
Really?
And what is so interesting to me now is that there are a number of other shows, or I don't know if I've seen it in movies, but there are a number of other shows where the show Felicity is referenced when a character gets a haircut. So it's like interesting how this stuck in other pop culture. And it, for a show that ended in 2002 at a time when there wasn't social media, there wasn't, or, that was just sort of beginning. The actors weren't going to conventions. Fans were appreciating the show amongst themselves, but didn't really have a lot of forums to talk about it. Somehow this became a story point that carried forward into pop culture far into the future and made it a show that somehow was still relevant. So it is
Yeah.
really interesting to me, like, that at the time maybe that wasn't the best thing for the show, but then like it keeps it in the conversation later and when it might not have been.
Hmm.
I
I
remember,
mean,
what was it? There was an episode of One Tree Hill, I think, where like Lucas gets a haircut and Keith, his uncle, is like, "Yeah, Felicity." I was just like, "Oh my gosh," and that stuff has happened in other shows as well. But it's just, it comes up.
yeah, it's interesting how I don't even want to say controversial, but how deep conversations about hair can go,
Mm-hmm.
especially I would say in like with minority and queer actors. So
Mm-hmm.
more recently, we've seen a lot about different haircuts, or like African American women, uh, you know, taking off a wig, having natural hair, and that being sort of a major, not plot point in the story, but outside of the show.
Mm-hmm.
And people commenting on like Viola Davis
Yeah,
and
I was just
others.
thinking
And
of How to Get Away with Murder. Or is that what you were
yeah,
thinking of?
that's one of the things I was thinking of.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and just how interesting conversations about hair have continued to be kind of over time. Obviously, this one wasn't, say, as significant in terms, well, I don't know if, I mean, it was significant enough to the network
Mm-hmm.
that a bunch of people stopped watching, and then there's continued reactions today. But I don't know from a cultural standpoint how significant it was. I guess we'd have to go back and try to do some research to figure out why people stopped watching. Um, if it really was just the haircut, or if the haircut meant something else to them.
Or if it was another factor altogether. I
Yeah.
mean, I think for me, so I'll say my personal experience with this. My hair is very similar to Felicity's original hair from season one. And when I first saw a commercial for the show and I saw this woman who was meant to be playing somebody about my age with my hair, I felt immediately connected to her. And then when I saw her personality on the show, I was like, oh, wow, there's a lot that's going on with Felicity that's actually very similar to how I feel about things, or circumstances in my own life. Not all of them, but some things. And so I felt really connected to her. I didn't have a problem with her cutting her hair, but when I actually felt kind of betrayed, to be honest, was in season four when she straightens it. And Carrie Russell has never gone, as far as I've been able to tell, has never gone back to curly hair from season four through the rest of her life to this point. She was basically like, curly isn't cool anymore. And I was like, what the actual,
Aww.
I felt really like, wait a minute. what is she saying to me? It was upsetting. Like I actually loved her hair junior year. I had my hair cut like that at one point in college. I went to an actual hairdresser and with two pictures of different scenes from Felicity and said, "Give me this," and from junior year. And so for me, like the haircut was not as much of a blow as the just like, you know what, curls aren't cool anymore, I'm going straighter. I was like, come on, is there nobody I can trust anymore? It was upsetting. It was upsetting. But I don't know. I mean, Carrie Russell is beautiful with any hair. I mean, regardless, it doesn't. She is a beautiful woman. Doesn't matter what her hair looks like. It's just she's always beautiful, and we have seen them try in the Americans to give her a lot of looks that could go really wrong, and she's just still beautiful. So I mean, nothing to be said about that. For me, it was just a bigger switch to go from curly to straight than from long hair to short.
That's interesting. And I'll have to, I guess, see what that feels like later. I don't have curly hair, so I can't say it would be a personal affront to me. But I will say I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of the hair. I thought I would be more of a fan. Um, I mean, she is still beautiful, and I think especially in the scene with the registrar, where she has this red shirt that matches her lipstick and her makeup's really nice. Like, her face pops and is absolutely gorgeous, but with the different angles and, I took a good look at the hair and I'm not a fan. It won't, like, it doesn't affect my enjoyment of the show in any way,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah,
Okay.
just not my favorite.
Fair enough. Well, I mean, I think, we open the show looking at her hair and hearing different characters talk about it. We get Megan. Wow. She's like, wow, good. She's like, no, definitely wow, bad. And then Berkey gives us the opposite opinion. He comes through and is like, yeah, I think you look hot. Megan thinks he doesn't count.
No.
So there's all that. And there are random people on the street stopping her and saying, "Oh, that's gutsy. It looks like a whole new you." Ruby says the same thing. I think we meet Ruby for the first time in this episode. And she also echoes this idea of it's a whole new you, which I think is the idea of what Felicity's character was going for. To feel like it's a fresh start. And so we're getting a mix of reaction from the people who see it, but a lot of people are commenting on how like she's a new version of herself right now.
Yeah, and I felt like there were a lot more positive reactions. I mean, there's Megan, who, of course, was always going to say it was bad.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I did kind of like Noel's reactions. Those
He's
are
just
pretty,
laughing at her in disgust, pretty much.
yeah. Um, he's so bitter. That I found that to be pretty funny about this episode. Um, but
He's sort of back to
mostly,
passive aggressive at the start of this episode, or maybe we can say he's improved to the level of passive aggression in this episode because he was overtly harsh
he's
in
still
previous
overtly
episodes.
hard,
I think so. Yeah. Yeah.
at least partly. So, but dismissive. He's dismissively harsh, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know, something. But I think overall, people were giving her really good reactions. And I think it's interesting that she makes such a big point of she's cutting her hair for herself at the end of the last episode. And then, you know, she gets all these positive reactions.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's always nice to hear nice things from other people. But I just thought that it was such a, if everybody had hated her hair, I kind of wonder if the fact that she did it for herself would have really mattered. because she didn't seem too happy about it when Noel was critiquing it.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Well,
But yeah, I do think this is the first time we meet Ruby because she looks so familiar that I'm assuming she sticks around for a while. Um,
she does. She's going to be an important character this season. And also, I mean, I know that she's been in other stuff, like her career. She's done some good things in her career. So like there have been some films she's been in. I don't know if I don't know if she's mainstream. Like I remember being in what was it, the Butterfly Effect with Ashton Kutcher. I feel like there are probably people who have seen her in other things and wouldn't even realize, oh, you were in Felicity. But like I know it the reverse. So um, I'm always amazed by so many of the characters, so many of the actors in this show have gone on to do a lot of great things. You know, even
yeah,
some of these minor characters that come in, or like the characters that are there for a season or a season and a bit, you know, in this season we've already met Ruby and we've met Berkey, and both of them, you know, they're Amy Smart and Michael Pena.
yeah.
Like wow, like the people who were casting this show
I mean, I'm just gonna
predicted some great
say
futures.
Bradley Whitford was there for all of 30 seconds and didn't say anything, and he's had a fantastic career.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Jean Katzmarek, you know, being Julie's mom. I
mhm.
mean, we're just so many. This show is kind of like a who's who, and that doesn't always happen with shows that are made a long time ago. Sometimes you see them and you're like, what happened to those people? And
Yeah,
with this, there's so many. Like they got better and better and better. So many of them.
yeah, they did a good job. They did.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
But yeah, we've met
so
Ruby now.
we have met Ruby, and she seems nice. And she's I love the interaction that she first has with Felicity, where she comes in looking for help, and then Felicity just makes it all about herself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, yeah, that tracks.
Well, did she? I mean, Ruby makes a comment about her hair. Felicity's like, thanks. And she's like, did you break up with somebody? And Felicity is just like stuck. And she's like, never, it looks great. It's new you. Like, never mind. Really? I don't, did Felicity actively make it about herself, or was she just waiting for Ruby to get it out of her system?
No, so Ruby comes, and she's like, I'm gonna leave because I can't get into this
Oh, right, right,
class.
right. Yeah,
And then Felicity's like, what about this art class? I'd love to take that. What about this other art class? I'd love to take that. And Ruby's like, I'm not really into drawing. And then
yeah.
Felicity's like, oh, right, this isn't about me.
Like, well, yeah. So Ruby was, you know, upset because she couldn't get this one class that she really wanted, which was a Norwegian landscapes class, and she makes this whole bit. I like some of these little touches they put in the script. Like she's like, oh, I remember this family member. I go to her house and she had this beautiful wallpaper with windmills. And Felicity's like, isn't that Dutch? She's like,
And
what?
isn't it Dutch?
Yeah, I
I
think
mean, am I
so.
wrong? It's, yeah,
Yeah.
like when I think Dutch, I'm like windmills, tulips, clogs.
I'm pretty sure
Like,
we all think of windmills as being Dutch, and I think Ruby is just, you know, I think it says something. I think my impression of Ruby on meeting her is she's kind of like she's got a certain naivete. She's like kind of wide-eyed in the world, but things kind of work out anyway.
when
Um,
you say naivete, is that like a nice way of saying dumb? Because she did come off as kind of dumb to me.
did she? Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I think she, I don't know, like she, yeah, maybe. I mean, I don't know. She just she's kind of doe-eyed, just like looking at the world, and things seem to be going okay for her and working out, and she gets help where she needs it. But I don't know if I think of her as like really lucky somehow, like she's getting through. And she finds the people who will help her get through, and she's nice enough. But what's the agency that she really has? I don't know. Yeah, is she dumb? Maybe.
Sounds kind of like you're saying from an evolutionary standpoint. She's getting lucky because otherwise she would not be surviving.
She just, she seems like somebody who doesn't really know what's up at any point, but will always find somebody who can help her, you know? And look at how many times that happens, even in this episode, like she's going to Felicity and Megan, she goes to Noel, she goes to the guy at the computer store who gives her all the information. And then she is able to parrot back the information that she needs. But she's not somebody who's like, got all the information herself, but it seems like she'll always manage to find somebody who can hook her up with the what she needs or the right information or whatever. Um, I think she's a very social being.
So we can say she's emotionally intelligent.
I think so. It'll be interesting to see how the perception of her tracks here. But I mean, what did you think of her in watching this first introduction?
I had a weird reaction to her because she comes in and she seems nice, but like there's something about her character, and I don't know what it is, but I feel like she could be a real bitch.
Mm, okay,
And I don't know what it there's just something about her that I'm like, "Oh, I would I would not want to get on her bad side."
interesting.
Or I also feel like she might be a big gossip, um, and say like really cutting things. And I don't know exactly why I feel that way.
Mm,
Because as I said, she comes in, she's asking for help, but it seems a little fake, maybe the nice part.
it's interesting. I'm glad I asked you this, and it's interesting to see that there's something about her that made you feel that way. They're not going to take her character in that direction. Um,
Okay.
so whatever you're picking up on was probably unintentionally put down, but a lot of like
No.
it is like there's a sweetness to her that's like what's underneath this, and you're kind of waiting to see what's
Yeah,
underneath it. And
exactly.
I don't know if there is anything underneath it. Is me maybe that's we're
I'm
asking
just
for
too
her to be more
cynical.
fleshed out. I don't know.
Could be.
But
Or
yeah, I think
somebody comes and is nice, and I'm just like, no, you just can't
you're
be
immediately
nice.
skeptical.
Yeah.
You're
I'm
you're
like,
you're a
you
resident
have
cynic
to
for a
be something
reason.
else.
Yeah, I mean, I think they are going to give her a really meaty story to play with here. So even if you think of her character as not having a lot of dimensions, the storyline they're going to give her begs her to have more to it. Um, they're not going to take her in a direction of being a gossipy mean girl, but she is just going to have. I feel like she's always going to have this element of like, um, just like this the sweetness and the needing of help and the like she just I don't know.
I feel like she would do really well in a horror movie where she ends up like either single white femaling someone,
Mm-hmm.
or she
Gosh.
ends up, like being the killer.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. I feel maybe it is just as you say, like the lack of depth that I'm filling in for her.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like she would do really well as like here's the kind of surface level,
Mm-hmm.
and as you go under it, she becomes a serial killer.
Wow. Well, that's why we love you, Fish. That's why we love you. She is not
Hmm.
going to become a serial killer in this show.
Oh,
That
darn.
I will tell you now. But she so she didn't get this class, which I remember, not getting a class in college, you kind of build your schedule around you start, you build a schedule, and then if you don't get something, you've already slotted in all this other stuff. So it becomes a bit of a challenge of saying, okay, what can I take during the times that I now have free, that I'm actually interested in? And
Mhm.
she's kind of at that point, and she just doesn't know where to begin. And Felicity opens up the course catalog for her, which she probably could have done herself, but maybe it just changes to have somebody else to talk it through with. Um, and
Well,
so,
her answer was, I'm just going to drop out. I couldn't get this
yeah,
Norwegian landscape course, so I'm leaving.
yeah, but I didn't really have it felt hyperbolic, Was she actually going to drop out on the back of that? I don't know. I mean, it was relatively easy for Felicity to turn this around and be like, how about instead of that, we look at the course catalog and see if there's something else? She's like, well, okay, that could work too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, didn't she end up with like Russian
Costumes of
costumes?
Tsarist Russia. So
Oh my
Felicity, like you
goodness.
said, is looking through, and what's catching her eye is all these drawing courses. And maybe they were flipping to those sections because a Norwegian landscapes class, there's something aesthetic about that. So they were probably in a section of the course catalog that might have triggered that. Felicity's eye was being caught by drawing classes, but Ruby's like you said, no, that's not really my thing. And Felicity's like, well, what is your thing? And then Felicity randomly picks one. She's like, well, there is this costumes of Tsarist Russia class. And she says it almost laughing. And Ruby's like, yeah, great, perfect. Love it. Love your work. Goodness. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess the first one she wanted was art history,
Okay.
right? And so then Felicity goes into just art. She's like, if you know exactly what you want, you miss out on all these other things. Oh, here, let me look at the stuff I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess maybe the costumes, they are kind of art history, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
what's the word I'm looking for? Um, uh, well, not design, but you know, folk art and um,
Yeah, I mean, fashion
wearable
design
art.
is still, um, yeah, wearable art seems like a good way to describe it, and set in a certain time period in a certain place. So I think it makes a lot of sense to me, the connection between our Norwegian landscapes class and a costumes of Tsarist Russia class. I can see why she'd be interested in both of those things.
Yeah.
Um, so that definitely tracks for me. And I think this experience that Felicity has is an experience I watched people go through in college, especially people who had majors. In our school we called them concentrations, majors that are like really rigorous in terms of the number of courses you need to take to meet your requirements. So we actually, Fish, you and I had a suite mate who had this exact thing happen, where she came to school as an engineering major, and she was interested in a lot of other stuff, and she was especially interested in psychology classes. And I remember her being kind of frustrated her freshman year, being like, I can't take any of this stuff with all my engineering things that I have to do. And then I think it was maybe sophomore year or end of freshman year, a bunch of us were sitting in her room, all studying. And she's a very decisive person, but not to be confused with like taking quick action. She thinks about things for a long time. And then like when she makes a decision, it feels sudden if you didn't know that this was percolating for a while. So we're all sitting in this room studying, and all of a sudden she just closes her book like with a loud thud, and she's like, I don't I don't really care about this anymore. I don't want to I'm not interested in reading this. I don't want to take this test. I don't want to take this class. I don't want to be an engineering major. I'm going to be a psych major. And like basically the next day, she made it all happen. And she instantly felt freer because the psych requirements were, you know, she could still do it. You know, she had enough time left to take all those classes, and she still had time to like take other things that interested her. So I think this experience that Felicity's having of like, I'm so locked into pre med and I can't take anything else that I want to take with this schedule, and then being attracted by other types of classes, it's a pull. It's really compelling at that stage for some people to just like get a chance to explore those other things.
Yeah, and I think that engineering and pre-med are were the two where you were really locked in. I think you had to apply and get into those before you even came to college.
Mm-hmm.
And those were the only two that you were already locked into because I guess from day one, there were so many courses you had to take that, from freshman year, first semester, you had to know, like, these are going to be your courses.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think a lot of people dropped and then just, did whatever they felt inspired to do and had all that freedom to kind of do that. I guess I came in as being interested in a particular area, which was kind of international. It was like US and international relations, and I liked numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so that's just something I've been interested in since high school and was able to, you know, have a fairly, um, I don't know, open and interesting schedule to fill in my requirements. And then just continued to be interested in it. And there have been a bunch of iterations of it throughout my career, but it's always been kind of in the same interest area. So I think I just ended up being really lucky that I didn't have any of these big shifts.
I sort of did it a different way. Yeah, Fish, you and I were both international relations concentrations, but there were, I think, four different tracks of international relations. There was one that was more economic, one that was more political, there was one that was environmental, and there was one that was more cultural.
Well, there
And
was a security one. There was like a national security, like NSA type
mhm,
one.
yeah, so I didn't have a major selected before I started in college. And I think what I did was at some point, maybe in my freshman year, maybe even early sophomore year, I can't remember. I was looking, I thought, okay, what I did the reverse. I pulled out my own course catalog and highlighted every course that sounded interesting to me. And then I looked at the majors and I thought, which major allows me to take the most of these?
Oh,
And that's how I ended up landing on what I landed on. And honestly, I've never thought about my concentration since I graduated, not once. But I would say that I've definitely used, like, I've lived internationally, I've lived in different cultures. Um, and my work experience has gone way off of the grid of any sort of traditional path, but it did allow me to mostly take classes in college that were very interesting to me.
yeah. And we even took one together.
Mm-hmm. Sure did.
Yeah, no, I ended up in the political economy and development track, and then I did economic development as my career.
Mm-hmm.
So pretty much kept it in the same vein.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
interesting how all that stuff evolves, but Felicity's journey here does not surprise me at all. And in fact, I think we're getting a really good mix of the main characters in this show of the different types of experiences people have. You know, Felicity
Mhm.
is switching a major. Elena, pretty sure about what she wants. She's very focused on it.
Yes.
Noel, he has a lot of talent. So you kind of know he's going to land and, probably like he's building websites. He's got a graphic design like set of hobbies on the side. So you feel like he's already building towards a career. Um, Ben and Julie, they feel like a lot of people I know too. Like they've got their interests and are they sure what they're going to major in? Not yet. And that's a really big conversation people had in sophomore year if they hadn't already figured it out.
Absolutely. And I kind of liked the way that they did this, where, Felicity said, I don't have to choose, during her, during the first season.
Mm-hmm.
And, and now they don't make such a big deal about her having to choose, but she just kind of gets to a point where she's like, yeah, I do have to choose because I can't do the art courses. And I love the conversation she has with Elena, where Elena looks at her and says, you're dropping pre-med. I can see it in your eyes. I'm your
Mm-hmm.
lab partner. And Felicity repeatedly says, no, I'm not. I'm not. I'm really not. And the next scene, she's there with the registrar saying, I want to drop pre-med. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and also this there's a previous setup to all this in that in the beginning of this episode, she's leaving a tape for Sally and
Hmm.
she's saying, I dropped pre-med. Like
Yep.
she opens with this
Yep.
revelation to Sally. So we know we're on the way here. And then so when she has this conversation with Elena, you're like, oh, she's gonna drop pre-med. Like as much as Elena's like, you're gonna do it. Felicity's like, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. And we're sitting there knowing she already has. Um, so, to see, I liked the way it played for comedy when they just cut from her reassuring Elena that she's not going to drop pre med to immediately going to the office where she can drop pre med. Um,
Yeah.
and they make it happen. They make it happen where she has now dropped pre med altogether.
Yeah. It's happened. I don't know how hard it would be for her to get back in if she wanted to. I mean, Elena keeps saying she's going to come back, so I didn't really think that was a thing, but I guess maybe you can become pre-med if you're not. Um, Probably entails a lot of makeup work,
Yeah, I'm
but
sure it does. We're
but you
going to
have to
see a
tell me.
character go through that journey.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's good to know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I I don't know if there's a complete skip in my notes here. There was a point here where a couple of points where where I had to catch up on notes. So tell me if I'm missing something in between or after the scene where she's talking to the registrar, because the next note I have is Sean sideburns. His
Yeah.
sideburns are so big now.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
So big.
Is that the next thing? I don't know. I mean, you might be referencing the scene where Ben and Sean are carrying a bed frame.
I am.
Okay. That happened. Yep.
Was that the next scene or did I miss something? Because
No,
I
I think
just,
that
I was
is. I
like,
mean, in the
wow.
Elena and Felicity conversation, they go through the whole "you're dropping pre med, aren't you?" They make it a point to talk about how Felicity is avoiding Ben, and that seems to be helping her not think about him as much. Um, and then they go into the whole, actually dropping pre med thing. But then we move into Ben and Sean carrying this bed frame. They're outside of the apartment building, trying to bring a queen size bed frame in to the building, which seems like a losing battle, but that's fine. Um, and I don't know how they're going to get it up into the loft, but that is okay because it's fully assembled. They're going to somehow make this thing happen. And Julie encounters them.
Yeah. And she just casually drops, I got an apartment, and like wrecks Sean's life.
It just wrecks Sean's life. And Ben, he's kind of keeping the conversation going at a normal
Yeah.
cadence where he's like, oh, great, great for you. And Sean's like slowly dying on the inside while carrying the bed frame. Yeah, the bed frame is now dropped. and
Yep.
they're just trying to process this. And then Ben's like, Sean, you got to bring this in the apartment with me. Like, focus, buddy, focus. I know your world's crashing down around you. Um, yeah, yeah, you really could see on
Oh,
his
poor
face he's
Sean.
just deflated. Poor guy.
He is. He's just this poor girl. Not poor girl. This girl is just ruining this poor boy. Um, and it's interesting because as we continue to go along, we start to see more Ben and Julie moments as we continue to see Sean, like, slowly crumple and wither. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be interested to see what happens there.
Yeah, yeah. But it is interesting how like this dynamic between the three of them really has really shifted. You know, Ben and Julie were together, and now Ben fully knows how Sean feels about Julie and is like weirdly just trying to be the normal force in that situation. And we just somehow got here, we just blended our way into this.
And I don't remember any conversation between Ben and Sean about Julie where Sean says he likes her or Ben says Sean likes her.
I don't think we ever had that. I think the closest we've gotten to that was what the first episode of this season where Ben's, Sean is giving advice about what Ben should do with Felicity. And Ben says something like, you do what you want about Julie, and I'll do what I want about Felicity. And the way that came across made me feel like Ben knows what's up. Um, and so
Okay.
is it because he's seen Sean give lingering looks to Julie, or they've had an actual full conversation about it? We never saw that. It's
Okay.
like that stuff happened off screen, and it's the essence of that bled its way into their relationship now because it seems seamless. But I'm curious. So, do you feel like you needed to see that scene?
Yeah, because I don't know that I really felt that or feel that Ben does know exactly the extent of Sean's feelings in this episode, just because we see so many moments between Julie and Ben that I kind of felt like it was moving in a direction of the two of them might get back together.
Mm-hmm.
And then that would be an issue with Sean. But I feel like if Ben knew how Sean felt and they're all living together, that he's a little more like bro code. Like he
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't he wouldn't do that. But then again, they've dated before, so Sean really shouldn't be dating Julie.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all just real messy, I guess.
Yeah, but then, alongside all of this is the fact that Julie really has friend zoned Sean anyway.
And at a part of the time I feel like she wants to get back together with Ben, and part of the time I feel like she's just being nice and friend zoning him. So I
Yeah.
was also a little confused about that.
Yeah, it's
So
almost like Ben can't be insulted by Sean violating any sort of bro code because it's all just too sad, you know? It's like, oh, okay, you want to be with Julie? Okay, okay. Like it does not feel like
oh,
it's in the realm of possibility right now with sure with Julie just like constantly trying to hold parties to get dates and like getting date right on the back of that with other guys. And Sean's just sitting there pining away, and it's like, can Ben, if like Ben maybe would otherwise be insulted, possibly if Sean was at all close to being successful at this. But like so many of his
yeah.
inventions, Sean is like, it's just so sad.
No.
It's so sad. And Julie is so
Well,
oblivious.
and I also think I really like the scene where it's towards the end, they're all having breakfast
Yeah.
and, they've got their rhythm down.
Yeah.
And it almost feels like if Ben was observing, how withered and crumpled, Sean was getting, he wouldn't have suggested that Julie stay at that point, but he
Hmm.
just kind of likes the routine. He's
Yeah.
enjoying them living together.
And there's
And he's
like
just like,
a vibe. They it works. It works what they have. We'll get
yeah,
into that more because there's a couple of cool scenes that kind of lead into that with the roommate interviews. Um,
yeah,
but we know that Julie, she's found an apartment and she's supposed to move in at the end of the month. So they should start looking for roommates. And so there's a task to be done here, whether or not Sean likes it. But then we transition into another situation where women are not giving men the attention that they want. And we've got a conversation between Noel and Richard, which I have to say, I love
oh,
this. Just
how
Richard.
how did
Oh.
this happen? You're the only person here besides me, so please explain this to me. Like, how did this happen? How did it go from Richard being so incredibly annoying? And yes,
Mhm.
they had a few moments, but like, how in the world was Richard ever invited over to Noel's place to hang
Yeah,
out?
this isn't just a matter of, oh, he's down the hall and I can just wander into Noel's room.
Right.
It's like he had to be let into this apartment. And obviously Noel wanted that, right? They're hanging out as buddies now. It
But he's
feels
still annoyed.
he's still a little right.
He's
But
still annoyed.
it's so funny how like the note that they gave here for Richard is like you're very protective of your friend. That's it. That's been
Hmm.
the note for Richard for like a season now. And
Yeah.
we see it. It's like just be as protective as possible over Noel. That's it. That's your job. You're loyal. Like, you're watching out for your buddy. And I think
He's team Noel.
he's team
He,
Noel all the way.
Richard is definitely team Noel. And Noel, I feel like the note to Noel was whatever Richard is doing, just be annoyed.
Okay.
Like he is not helpful.
Yeah.
And so Noel's
Yeah.
sitting there or standing there saying, Richard, shut up. Richard, you're not
Well,
helping.
and why is this
Quiet.
happening? Because Richard is poking on the open sore of the fact that so we know that Bridgid with a D gave him a number at the party, but she
Uh-huh.
gave him a number for Ray's original pizza and not her number. And so Noel and Richard are talking about that now. And Richard's like, he just kind of bounced back from that kind of brutal rejection. And Noel's like, well, it wasn't brutal. He's like, that's good. That's good. That's exactly it. It's not brutal. Well, like who needs her? Who needs Pizza Girl?
Yeah,
Um,
who needs her? I mean, you already got completely flattened by Felicity. I mean, it's happened once, it's happened twice. Like, you gotta just get back out there.
yeah,
I
just
was
get
like,
back on that
no.
horse. And Noel's like, it's not a big deal. I did, and then Richard's just like, well, you should just get out there. Noel's like, Richard, yeah. So Richard honestly is trying to be really supportive, and it's just also he is being really insulting. He's not trying to, but in the process of trying to get to the encouragement, he has to poke on that open sore a little bit.
Yeah.
That's how it is. But this is where they are now. And I think I like that they had this little vignette because it's going to set us up for what's going to happen later. Has Richard ever left the apartment? I don't know. But when
Hmm.
Ruby does show up, which maybe we'll circle back around to that. But Richard and Noel are hanging out.
They are, and I'm assuming it will bring us joy for many, many episodes/seasons to come.
Mm-hmm. And then Noel's kind of on the move in this episode. He's sort of bringing us to the next location, which we see that Elena and Felicity are having a conversation at I'm guessing that's Epstein Bar. Um,
Probably. Yeah.
and they're just kind of talking through the fact that she did indeed drop pre-med. And then Noel pops in and sits down, not realizing that Felicity is Felicity because of her haircut. He's mean.
Yeah. He he is mean, and I have a couple of awards to give in this episode, and this is the first one. It is for the most shade thrown,
Mm.
and it is when Noel joins and Elena's like, "How great is her? Oh no, isn't her hair so great?" And Noel just says, "Yeah, if you say so."
Hmm. Yeah, he just says a bunch of stuff like that. And then actually,
Yeah.
my the better line for me is when Felicity gets up from the table, just furious and not happy with Noel at all for being so mean. And then she gets up, she leaves. She's like, "You guys have whatever conversation you're gonna have." And Elena says, "That was a jerky thing to do." And Noel says, "Well, I'm not the one who cut her hair."
Yeah. I mean, just in succession.
Mm-hmm.
He says, "Yeah, if you say so." And then it'll grow out. And then buy a hat and so you'll have a bad hair year.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like,
Oh my goodness.
oh no, that is a
Yeah.
lot of brain power you just used to just to
It
just
was all
rag
right
on
at his
this hair.
fingertips because this is the first time
Yeah.
he's seeing her. Yeah.
Oh,
Knowles, you know what? I actually
bitter. Noel's
really
bitter.
love. So you were saying that this episode didn't pop for you. And I will
Hmm.
say that, when I do rewatches, when I get to this episode, I'm like, okay, it's not like an episode I would skip. It's not a least favorite one, but it's not something that pops for me either. On this rewatch, looking at it with this level of detail, it impressed me a lot more. And it did that because of the really interesting navigation they do here between Felicity and Noel. Um,
Yeah, I
what
would
a
say
journey they
Noel.
go on in this episode as like a just this episode look.
Absolutely. I would say I can't even say he like fully saves the episode, but between the things that Noel says to Felicity and his facial expressions when she's talking to him,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would say he's like the MVP of
it,
this episode.
there's so much work done. It is amazing to me. We're sort of in this episode, we're kind of past the explosion. There isn't an explosion between them in this episode, but we start in this immediate aftermath where he is still seething, but in a way that's more sort of controlled and sarcastic and mean. That's where he starts in this episode. And that's this scene where he's just
Hmm.
cutting into her about her hair over and over again. That's where he starts it, and he's going to end in a really different place. They're going to end in a different place together, and
Yeah.
you have to buy. Like, they're asking us to do a lot of work to buy into all of that. And I think these actors sold it, but it
I
is
think
very
they sold
fast.
it. Yeah, that's the thing. I think they sold it if if you assume maybe there was like another 2 weeks in between
Mm-hmm.
the blue shirt Noel and when he changes his shirt
Yeah,
and they actually like get somewhere.
yeah,
And clearly there isn't because you know, she has to draw hands and then the hands are there.
yeah,
So they probably didn't give her 2 weeks to draw hands.
yeah.
Um, and if they did, then I agree. Probably not the best hands ever. But, you know, um, I,
It might
given
have
a
been
little
though,
extra
because
time, I buy it.
I I think it could have been 2 weeks because she shows up when they do the critique. She shows up into class at the start of class, puts her thing on the easel, and they've already critiqued Lee's work, some other kid from class. which to me means that must have happened in the previous class. And because, we got the setup of what the assignment was going to be, we never saw Lee's work critiqued, and now we're in this other class. So there must have been at least one class in between. So could that have been, do they have one class a week, or do they have more than one class a week? I don't know. But I could imagine that this could be 2 weeks. They just don't really give you a sense of how much time elapses. Um,
Okay.
I,
I mean, then I would buy it. Yeah.
yeah. So we'll dig into those scenes a lot more, I'm sure. But also around this time, they're setting up the fact that Noel's now gone into an art class. Bridgid's in this art class. He sees Bridgid. The stars have aligned. He has, his best next step for trying to pick her up, which is, hey, you sent me a number for a pizza place last time. I'm going to ask you for your number again. This time I want Chinese food. And now, okay,
Yes.
this is kind of
And
cute.
that poor. So my first reaction was, what is Noel doing in an art class? And of course, Felicity's going to be there. Got it. But this was my next award, which is best wasted pickup line.
Yeah, it was good.
I thought the Chinese food pickup line was so good.
It was good. It was a step-by-step approach, like Elena asked him to do.
Hmm.
This is the next step. And I mean, I can believe that Noel would be in an art class for his graphic design purposes.
And I guess it's a prereq for all other art classes,
Mhm.
so that makes sense.
Which is weird that he's showing up at it in his junior year, but that's fine. Um,
Fair enough.
so it is. Uh, you know, I'm sure we'll talk more about Bridget as we get to maybe the park scene, but I think in this scene, what they're trying to say is three people have now shown up in this class. We've got Noel, we've got Bridget, and then Felicity walks in because that's the
Yeah,
prerequisite she has to take, just like everybody else. And
I
there's this
know.
awkward
And
moment.
I wrote down, why is Noel in an art class? And then I wrote, as Felicity walks in, I just wrote Noel's face
Yeah.
because he has some amazing facial expressions
Mhm.
that range from anger to a lot of disgust to a bit of sadness. I mean, bitterness. His tone, his lines, his face, this whole episode, again, MVP.
Yeah, he did an amazing job here. And they heighten this conflict as much as possible. Felicity sits in a seat next to Bridget, who's sitting in a seat next to Noel, who's sitting in a seat next to, what's his name, maybe Bruce. I don't know if they've named him yet. Um, and
If
at
his
some
name
point,
isn't Bruce, I love that you just called him Bruce.
I think his
You're
name
like,
is
oh,
Bruce.
that looks like a Bruce to me.
I'm going to
Yeah,
call him Bruce until they call him something else. And then if they call him
okay,
something else, I'm going to rename him. But for us, he's Bruce.
nice.
And so they're in this class. Professor Sherman says, okay, everybody, you're going to need to pair up. And um, so they do, they pair up, and Felicity and Bridget end up looking at each other and connecting. And Noel wanted to pair with Bridget, but he's going to get Bruce, who, art is his life. And this is
It
unfortunate.
is.
It's going to be a very different pairing experience for Noel than what he hoped for. And that's it. So Felicity is everywhere now. She's like really inserting him. It would appear to Noel that she's really inserting herself in his world.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it seems like it's not really something she's trying to do, but she is around.
She
She's
is around.
everywhere, as Noel says.
And she's just kind of like, all right, well, I think at this moment, they're just like, let's not bother each other. Let's just do what we need to do.
Yep.
Um, and, Noel, I don't know how long Noel would be able to sustain that stance, but he's just looking for this not to escalate.
Yeah.
But that's
He just
unfortunate.
wants her. Yeah, he just wants her not in his life, and she's everywhere in his
Mhm.
life.
and he just wants her to not be more in his life, and that's going to be a problem real soon.
Yep.
So that, we immediately cut to a scene where Ruby's now in Megan and Felicity's room asking for advice about what computer to get. And
Well,
Megan's like, I
what
really
we
don't care.
actually cut to, yeah, what we actually cut to is a scene of Megan's midriff
Mm-hmm.
just fully covered in leather
Uh-huh.
as she is turning to the mirror and shaving her armpits in her room.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is what we come in on
Yeah.
as Ruby is sitting on a bed asking Megan questions while she is like kind of not quite dry shaving her armpits. Clearly not the RA who's going to help you.
Mm-hmm. And she's openly like, I really could care less about this.
Yeah.
So then Felicity comes in, thank goodness, because she's an RA who might actually answer a question here and there. And Ruby's asking about what computer to get. Felicity doesn't really know. But then Megan comes up with a brilliant idea.
Yeah, it's like Megan doesn't care. She doesn't want to be helpful. And yet she actually ends up being the most helpful as she's actively trying to, you know, amuse herself by making Felicity's life hell.
Yeah, it's like I can solve a problem and make Felicity squirm. Well, actually, I only care about Felicity squirming. So
Right.
this is fine.
One out
Um,
of two ain't bad.
yeah, so Megan's like, hey, doesn't Noel know about computers? And Ruby's like, no, I have to meet this Noel and get my questions answered. And Felicity's like, well, I don't really think, no, don't leave Noel out of it. And then Megan's like, yeah, just look him up in the directory, Noel Crane. It's like, dang it. Oh. And then Ruby
Yeah.
just like skips out of the room looking for
Yeah, she just like
Noel.
beelines for the door. She's like, fantastic, bye.
That's all she needed.
Yep.
Gosh. And that brings
Oh,
us
wow.
to yet another fun scene. Uh,
Okay, I've got to
mhm.
ask. So this is Sean and Ben looking for new roommates.
Yep.
This guy, Andrew,
Yep.
I know him from somewhere. Where do I know him from?
Oh boy. I have no idea where you know him from.
Oh, I know him from somewhere. He was in something where he was a major character, and I cannot figure out what it is. Listeners, if you know where this guy Andrew came from, let me know. I'm probably going to have to look it up, but do you also feel like you know him? Let us
Okay,
know.
that's a good question. And I'm just like slowly tapping into my computer to see if I'll be able to come up with that answer at some point along the way. But I'll keep poking through that. But I really enjoy this scene. We come to understand that this is Andrew is like the fifth or sixth roommate that has been interviewed, and that Sean has been rather selective, rather
Hmm.
picky about who potentially could. Let's see, his name is Trevor Lissauer.
I feel
And
like he was on another sitcom.
okay, so he was in La La Land. He was in Running the Halls. He was in Undressed. He was in Sabrina the Teenage Witch, 39
That's it.
episodes.
That's it. That's
Okay,
it.
we nailed
Yes.
it. All right, listeners, you're
All
off the
right.
hook.
He's the roommate when she goes off, when Sabrina goes to college. He's one of her roommates.
Okay,
That's what it is. That's what it is.
all right,
Okay.
nailed
Thank
it.
you.
Okay, so
All right.
hey, we're back. The universe is aligned again. It was out of whack there for a second, but we figured it out. We're good. I really actually enjoyed him. It was a very small part that he got here, but we just know that he's really not saying anything wrong. He's fine. He doesn't play musical instruments. He doesn't smoke. Sean's like, not even a puff. Ben's like, oh my God, man, all day with this. And, Sean sends him out of the room. He's like, sorry, Andrew, this isn't going to work out. And he just makes this great face. Like, I honestly don't understand what happened here. Like, okay. And Andrew Andrew exits the room and exits the loft, and Ben just looks at Sean. He's like, "That was the best guy we've interviewed today." But Sean had a problem with him, a very specific problem that I enjoyed.
Yes. For all the times that you and I have talked about Ben's wavy hair and how amazing it is the longer it gets, and the fact that, Sean brought in this wavy haired god uh, freshman year. Now, all of a sudden,
Mm-hmm.
he's got an issue with the long hair, and it's flip. It's flipping.
The flippy, and he does the hand motion, the flip. He's like
Yes.
a flippy hair. Yeah. And Ben's
Yeah.
like, "Flippy hair?" Sean says, "Appearance matters, man." Did he compliment this place at all? Did he say one
Yeah.
nice thing about this place?
If he
But
doesn't respect the loft, he's not going to respect them.
yeah, but I think that at this point we really get to the main crux of it, where Sean's like, I just can't see him being better than Julie. And Ben's like, Julie isn't a possibility, which is why we're looking for roommates. Sean's having a really hard time letting this go, and he's having a hard time finding. To him, Julie can't be replaced. So why bother?
I mean, if his criteria is for every roommate selection, uh, like we're not accepting you if you're not Julie,
Mm-hmm.
he's going to have a very hard time finding a roommate.
Yes, this is going to be a fruitless exercise.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, so that's, we're going to come back to that. I like, they did a lot of just sort of setting up these little moments that we'll come back to later in the episode. And now we're going to come back to another one that we left off of, and this is Felicity and Bridgid in the park.
I really like this moment because it's the two of them just bonding and, Bridget being really supportive. And I like the fact that Bridget is very feminine
Mm-hmm.
and Felicity is dressing more masculine.
Mm-hmm.
And, Bridget just says, I'm seeing someone else. It's a she. And I love the juxtaposition between these two.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just a really healthy way of subverting expectations
Mm-hmm.
or stereotypes. And it wasn't made a big deal of, which I also really
Yeah.
like. And I also liked how they didn't make a big deal about Javier.
Mm-hmm.
So I think
And I
that,
like that they're both being just supportive of each other. Like
yeah,
Felicity is trying to draw hands. She's nervous about her critique. Bridget's supporting her with that. And then Bridget is revealing that she has this long distance relationship with a woman who's going to another school. And Felicity's thing is like, wow, long distance must be hard. Like,
mhm.
but I like that it's sort of like a drama free, we're here for each other sort of conversation between partners in an exercise.
And I'm sad that I'm feeling this because I feel like it's true, but you can tell me if it's not. I feel like once Bridget is no longer a viable, person to date Noel, she probably does not continue. But I feel like her and Felicity could have been really good friends.
I don't know if we're going to see Bridget after this episode. I'm trying to
Yeah,
think if I can think
that
of
was my
any other
feeling.
scenes that she's going to have, and I'm just going to look that up real quick.
I
I
mean, I
because
will
I
say
don't.
I like her a lot better than I like Ruby at this point.
Yeah, I think she's a really interesting character. Yeah, she just has two episodes, last episode and this one.
Yeah.
It is a shame because I think she's an interesting character. I guess from a writing standpoint, there was just a purpose they were trying to serve with her in helping Noel get back into the fold, I suppose, and having this like way to start bringing Felicity and Noel back together in a way. Uh,
Well, to push them up further apart at first, and then to bring them back together and to use Richard as the means.
Yeah. I
to
mean, so I
try to
think
push them
Bridgid
apart.
now knows, well, Felicity now knows that Bridgid is gay, that even though Noel's pursuing her, she's not an option. What I do wish they would have done with her, though. So I like Bridgid. From a writing standpoint, would it have been, I mean, okay. So they give us this cute moment. Noel asks for her number. She gives him the pizza place number. Noel asks for her number again. She easily at the party could have said, I'm in a relationship.
Hmm.
And I kind of wish they would have done that because why do we play these games? Like, she's just not, why make him go through these steps? Like, if the answer is, I'm actually in a relationship, um, you know, I just feel like this is unnecessary, like gymnastics they're making this character do that I don't really appreciate or respect considering she's in this stable long term relationship, or at least that's what they're trying to present to us, and they're not going to show us anything else to like make us think differently. So what would have been so hard? She didn't have to out herself to do that.
She
um
didn't have to, but I don't know. I guess maybe sometimes there's follow-up questions or guys can be a little pushy. Like she didn't really know Noel, and I have on more than one occasion said something like, I'm seeing someone, and then a guy will say, they're not here now, you know. So I can understand her just look, I've done the same thing. I'm not gonna lie, on
hmm.
many occasions.
Yeah, I think
It's
it's
like, here,
unnecessary, honestly, because what's so hard about to the follow-up question being like, and I still have a relationship. Like I think if
it
somebody
can
asks a
be,
follow-up question, you can easily put your foot down and have that. I've done that too, so it's like, not your business.
yeah,
Like,
in a
I
party
think,
situation with people drinking and stuff like that, guys can come on pretty strong.
yeah, and I can decline strong. So
Yeah,
it's like
but
the other
maybe
thing
she
that
didn't
could
want to deal
happen
with it.
with it is like what if that person, like in the, I don't know what percentage of the time the person is like, oh okay, and then you end up having a friend out of it or an acquaintance, like she basically shoots down the opportunity for that to happen completely. um so it's just like, I don't know.
I don't know. I've been in her situation enough times that I'm just like, I don't want to deal with this here. And I feel really bad because I didn't give them the the number to like a pizza joint or something like that. I'd give them my number, but I'd change one number of it. And so
Hmm.
whoever's number that was like getting calls from a fair number of people
Oh my.
that like,
Yeah, yeah, you and I would have a different approach to this. I'd just be like, sorry, in a
yeah,
relationship, or sorry, not doing it. And
yeah,
then if they ask a follow up, it's usually only one.
yeah. I
But
don't know.
yeah.
But I also was hanging out later at night at bars with people who were drinking, and that tends not to be your scene. And
Yeah.
so
Well,
you
but so
deal
the
with
interesting
people
thing
at a
about
point.
that scene is that do those people even remember those conversations at all, even while they're happening?
What do you mean?
Like, I would normally leave a scene like that the moment people started to forget the night. So, like, very rarely did people even notice when I was gone. But like, if somebody were to try to like get my number in the context of that, I feel like saying no is almost easier because it's like, no, I'm going to go over here, and then they like immediately forget that they have a conversation with you at all.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a big range between like having a drink or getting a little buzz, and then just depending on the person, like some people can get pretty aggressive for a while, like a number of drinks,
Mm-hmm.
until they get to a blackout point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So,
fair
I mean,
enough.
it can be hours of that.
Yeah. Well, listeners, let us know what you think. What's the best way to handle this in your experience? Let's give tips to each other.
Yeah.
Find out what the way forward is.
And
But
and
there,
any guys listening as well, for those aggressive females, let us know. Like, how do you deal with that?
Hmm.
Yep.
Probably move on to somebody who's going to be a little bit of an easier spot. I cut out the riffraff pretty quickly. Because I'm like, whoa, never mind. Um, and then that's best for us all, really, in that
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah.
Um, but so now we've had this, and we know some very important information that Noel does not have, which is his entire exercise around trying to get a date with Bridgid is pointless. Noel doesn't know this yet. So we see a conversation now between Richard and Noel. And Richard is hopping mad.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, he sees the danger.
Uh-huh.
These two women have come together and Noel is in danger.
Uh-huh.
And while Noel may not believe that Felicity is manipulative like that, Richard knows she is a saboteur.
Felicity got to Pizza Girl. She shouldn't be talking to Pizza Girl.
Nope.
Yeah. Richard makes his feelings very clear on this. And this is perfectly set up now for Ruby to knock on the door. And and so Ruby knocks on the door. Noel opens the door. Ruby's ambling her way through trying to find out a way to explain why she's there. She's like, okay, I'm looking for a computer, and my RAs are Megan and Felicity. And Noel's just like, oh no. And Richard's eyes just roll around in his head. And he's like, oh, great. It's that Felicity again, sending girls to the door, sending other girls away.
Well, so here's my thing. In what universe is Felicity sending Noel women? Like, to me, and also, why is he pissed about that?
Yeah.
Like, it's not like Felicity is would be trying to get in between him and Bridgid by sending him a hot blonde.
Yeah.
Like, I don't. Hmm.
I think Noel just needs a break. He needs a break. He was like, after his big speech about I know that I never want to see you again. I know that I will. We go to the same college. I just don't want to. And then suddenly she's in his art class. She's at the bar. She's sending blondes to his door. It's like he's not getting a moment to breathe through all of this. And
It's fair.
so, yeah, I mean, how can you be angry with Amy Smart showing up at your door? But he
Well,
just doesn't
someone
want to
can.
hear the name Felicity.
That's fair.
And Richard is so Noel goes to get some information or something or his number or something like that. And Richard takes matters into his own hands, which I know you love this part.
Oh, I do. It's a callback, you know? I mean, Richard has learned from his mentor how to deal with people. And just, Noel steps away, gives him a second. Richard stands up and just slam right in Ruby's face.
As a just a full slam of the door, just
Full
as
slam.
hard as he
Just like,
can.
yeah, just like Noel did to him, where, you know, Richard was like, I've been waiting up for you. And Noel's like, slam
Mm-hmm. Season
right in
one.
Richard's face. Richard's
Mm-hmm.
like, you know what? I got you, man. I got you.
Yeah.
Slam.
Yeah. And then
Hot
he's
girl, go
given
by.
looks.
Yeah.
He sits back down on the couch and he's given looks back at the door. And then Noel's like, Richard. And he goes and he opens the door. And Ruby's starting to walk away. She's like, what did I just walk into? And, he opens the door for Ruby and Ruby can see Richard just glaring at her. She's like, I obviously came at a bad time.
Yeah. Ruby's kind of pissed, and I
Yeah.
can get that.
Yeah.
Like, because she was expecting, nice people. She didn't realize if Megan is recommending something, it is probably not going to end
Yeah,
well for you.
it's not good for your health. So, so, Noel, I would say sort of weakly tries to, I don't know. He's like, no, 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 I'll give you. And she's like, you know what? No. And she
Yeah.
just leaves.
No.
Like, but he doesn't really try that. He's starting to sort of like, sort of excuse himself, but then he doesn't really try all that hard to do it. He's happy for her to keep walking, and he's not going to stop her. And Ruby leaves, and that's how Ruby and Noel meet. And that's
That is
that.
the meet cute that we all wanted, with
Yeah,
Richard present
yeah.
and
Bridgid's
Felicity
cool
having
there.
center.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh my goodness. And then we get some more important information. Elena and Felicity are talking in a
mhm.
scene that you just know it's the network's answer. It's the answer to the question the network asked, can you put more color? And I think they're wearing bright colors, both of them, but like Felicity is perfectly set up next to a flower stand.
Yep, yep.
And Elena, what was she standing next to? It also had color, but it wasn't flowers. Apple, like apples or like fruit? I can't remember what she was next to. Um, but it's a nice setup.
It is.
Um,
They're outside. They're, shopping at the local New York fruit and flower stand.
mhm. Yeah, and so Felicity is saying that she felt kind of a pang that Noel had
Mhm.
asked out Bridgid. And
Yep.
Elena's like, wait, so you feel jealous? She's like, no, it's a pang. She's like, that he's going out with Bridget. She's like, well, no, that he asked her to go to the same place we went. Like, she feels a pang.
Yeah.
She's softening
It's
it. She's trying to explain it, but it's a feeling.
yeah, and it's so weird with all these feelings. I mean, they're still there. They're still around. There's always going to be feelings in, the show Felicity. So, and everything's just always messy. So, even though Noel is just being a jerk, Felicity's still, it's the ancient history, right? There is history there. She's got the feelings about Noel. She's got the feelings about Ben. She's got you know, Noel's got feelings. Ben's got feelings. Sean's got, like, everybody's got the feelings. And the
Mm-hmm.
one that Felicity is currently feeling is jealousy about Noel, even though her stronger feeling is still about Ben.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And, Elena gives us basically this aligned with the title of this episode. Her thought is, okay, you got feelings, get over them.
Yep.
You and Noel are ancient history.
That whole 8 months of ancient history.
Well, it was a year ago that she met him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's still not ancient history, but it's, I think classic Elena advice where it's like, oh, okay, well, it's done. Stop it with the feelings. And
Shut him down.
I think it's, I wonder if this is Elena's advice because she's living with Noel. Like if she weren't living with Noel, would she be saying, what would she be saying here if she weren't with Noel?
I think she'd be saying the same thing.
Okay.
I mean, look, she was never a big fan of Noel, and now since they're living together, she's opening up a bit more. But like, if they weren't living together, she'd still not be a fan of Noel.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't sure. I mean, she's a fan of Felicity being happy, but I think she was very protective of Felicity around Noel. But in this situation, she's also living with Noel, so she's aware of whatever Noel's vibe has been, and she doesn't feel like this is something Felicity should be pursuing. So she's not going to encourage that. She's like, "You got feelings, squash them."
Yep, agreed.
And that brings us to Ben and Julie.
With also the feelings. But before the feelings, I just want to say, you know, I have been loving how the lighting and all the colors and everything have changed, and it gives us a very nice sort of difference when they go back to the soft lighting and the darker uh, scenes. They've got nice music on in the background. They've got really nice lighting. The room is decorated really nicely. It's it's almost kind of like a little romantic moment that I think they've shot very well.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think, romantic. I don't know. I don't know if
I
I
mean, it
saw that
could it,
here.
it could have been a romantic scene with the lighting and with the music and all of that. I mean, the two of them didn't stare longingly into each other's eyes, but it allowed for a moment of, I think, intimacy, whether that was more on the friend side or, maybe moving into some feeling areas. But, they're certainly better off than Felicity and Noel at this point.
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure how they were feeling about each other in terms of, you know, maybe wanting to give it another shot, maybe just sort of wanting to be like friends, but Ben's helping her out because she's a little short. She's a little short.
Yeah, yeah, she is. It's tough to reach things in high places when you're short. And so one thing that I noticed here is the whole point of or the activity of this scene is that Julie's trying to take down a poster because she knows she's going to move out. And so she's just starting to get things ready. And she's taking down a poster and I should have had to stop the screen here, but it was what I saw very clearly was her name in huge letters, Julie Emmerich, and then it looked like a poster for an upcoming show.
Oh, I saw Epstein Bar, but
Okay,
I didn't
so it
see
was her
her.
headlining open mic night.
Maybe.
They had a huge, like that whole poster had her name headlining it at the top in huge letters, and as if they'd make that. Like, is that
Well,
something that a bar
maybe
would make?
maybe it was like on a stand or something outside of the bar, or like here's who's playing tonight kind of thing that she got to take home with her,
Could have been, I
and
guess.
then she
Yeah.
stuck it up on her wall.
Yeah. Guess so. So she stuck it up on her wall with gum and she needs some help getting it down. So Ben comes in, he's helping her get that poster down. And they're just having a quiet conversation about, oh, he's like, well, did you play much over the summer? She's like, yeah, I wrote some songs too. Songs like When Ben Dies. He's like, oh, shouldn't have asked. Um, you know, I don't know. I mean, and then, he's just getting over a breakup. So she mentions that. She's like, yeah, you get over it eventually. Um, I didn't really see from this scene a path to a romantic relationship, but I saw like uh, we can coexist in this way and be fine with it.
That's
Um,
interesting because I definitely felt something there. Because Julie says, yeah, I wrote the song like when Ben dies, which is kind of a little funny, kind of a little not. And but his reaction is, oh, I guess I should hear them. And she's like, yeah, a lot.
yeah, she's
And
like lots of times. I think it was like, I guess I deserve to hear that. And she's like, yep, you jerk. That's how I interpreted that exchange,
yeah, and I
but in a
interpreted it
soft way.
more, yeah, I interpreted it more like kind of soft and a little more flirty. And when Julie says, you get over it, I sort of felt like she was saying, you get over the Felicity thing and then I'm here. Like they're not she wasn't saying that to Ben, but she was feeling it herself. Like
Oh,
you'll get over
I
Felicity and then like it could maybe go somewhere.
I
Like
saw this scene completely differently. Um,
yeah. I definitely felt the whole thing was much more like intimate and maybe leading somewhere. But
Hmm.
you know where the show goes, and I
That's
don't.
the thing. I mean, I don't know, but even when I look at this scene in isolation, when she said, "You'll get over it," to me, that was her saying, "I got over you," and meaning it. And I think I saw her being softer with him because she know Ben sulks.
Yeah.
We haven't seen a
Yeah.
lot of this in this like his him sulking about Felicity has happened off screen, but Ben is known for his sulking in this show. So I imagine he's been moping about the loft a little, and he's
Uh,
being a little quieter. Like he's being really observant with Sean and that situation with Julie, and I don't know how he has been directly with Julie, but Julie has possibly picked up on that. So she's not needling him much over this. She was like, "You had this breakup, you'll get over it." I didn't
yeah.
see any. I didn't see any flirtation there.
Yeah. And maybe I'm just reading too much into her, maybe returning to being nice again since she's been so
Yeah, she's
abrasive.
been angry. I mean, and this is still an interesting blend of it, right? Because she's saying things that are ultimately still passive aggressive, but there's less edge to it than there was before. So for her to say to Ben, "I wrote songs like When Ben Dies," she's choosing to say that. And it's meant to be a dig. And then he says, "I probably should deserve to hear that." She's like, lots of times. She's still digging at him, but it felt so much edgier in the first two episodes of this
Right.
season. And now it does feel a little bit more muted.
Hmm.
Like she's lost some of the enthusiasm, or maybe she got it out of her system with Ben. Um, so, or maybe she's redirected it all to Felicity because Felicity's not there. So it's easier. I don't know.
Maybe.
But there's a softening, but it's not like, would Ben maybe prefer it if they had conversations not about songs like When Ben Dies? Probably. But
Well, yeah, but I feel like I don't know. I think we just felt the scene differently. Yeah.
yeah. But I do think the thing that we saw in common is that Julie's softening with him.
Yeah.
Um, what that meant to us was two different things. But I do think that is a point that's happening here. There's a thawing that's happening. Not all the way, but she in this scene, you can see a difference. And maybe we even find a complete difference by the end of this episode. I don't know.
Well, and I also feel like, she was very sort of like smug and wanting to kind of rub Felicity's nose in it that she was living with Ben,
Mhm.
and she was saying it wouldn't last, and the fact that it didn't, I think, kind of puts her in a better emotional state, which then lets her maybe let go of some of this sort of anger and other stuff because she was right. And, you know, that maybe that makes it a little better because I feel the same way about Noel. And we can talk more about this at the end, that he's just in a much better place emotionally before he can then, you know, get in a better place with Felicity.
Yeah. Yeah. I think one of the things that starts to come up at this point, and we're going to see this idea echoed a couple times. So, this Julie's idea, like, "You'll get over it." We then see a variation of that expressed by Felicity in the next scene where she's like, "I'm learning to live with it. I'm learning to live with the breakup." And I think you could say that all of them are now learning to live with the situations that they're in. It feels as though learning to live with it is the theme of what's happening here.
Yeah, I mean, the way she says it is very interesting because, she has just said, well, Elena has said to her that she's jealous about Noel, right?
Mhm.
But she just called it a pang.
Mhm.
But then she says, you know, she talks about getting over someone you're in love with
Mm-hmm.
as she sees Ben
Mm-hmm.
and saying, I don't know if you ever do, maybe you just learn to live with it.
Yeah.
So it's clear that her feelings are still much stronger for Ben than for Noel, but she's holding both at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're coming, it's not like there's when we open up this episode, it's right after the last one closed. People are just discovering her hair. It's not like it's been weeks and weeks. So, you know, she's trying to avoid Ben. She's been mostly successful, and it's a little bit out of sight, out of mind, but not completely.
Absolutely.
Now we head into another scene with Bridgid and Noel. And I know a lot of times you and I, when we're looking at these episodes, we're looking at them and like we're thinking about a couple of characters and we'll pull that thread all the way to the end. It's kind of hard to do with this one because there's so much it's like one character leaves a scene and then enters the next one with the next person.
Yeah.
So it feels like they're linked so much more than they usually are.
Yeah. I felt that way. We did this with the last episode, didn't we, too?
Yeah, there is a lot of this going on where it's just like there's so much interplay from one scene to the next and a lot of like callbacks and referencing that are happening
Yeah.
that it does feel like taking this chronologically makes the most sense. But it's probably going to feel like, scattered in terms of talking about a lot of different stuff. Because now we're back to Bridget and Noel, and she's just saying, hey, let's talk later because she's probably going to want to tell him about the thing she just told Felicity that
Hmm.
she can't be interested in him. She's in a relationship with a woman who's in another school. But they don't have time to talk about that now. They're just getting to class. So she's like, let's talk later. And Noel then turns around to Felicity and is like, stop it. Stop it. You're everywhere. She said, have you talked to Felicity? And that like perks his ears up. And then she says, let's talk later. So now he turns back to Felicity. He's like, you can't keep doing this. You cannot. Stop it.
We are not friends. Don't send me hot blondes. Get out of here. Go.
Yeah.
Shoot.
Yeah.
Shoot, Felicity, shoot.
And she's like, no, like, I'm not out to get you. He's like, it kind of feels like it. You're everywhere. She's like, all right, well, then I'll try to drop this class. But that's not
And
going to
he's
be
like,
possible.
great.
Yeah. She's making promises she can't deliver on because she does then try to drop the class and is not able to do so.
Yes, the woman who is the registrar is not nearly as friendly and easy to work with as she was the last time.
Mm-hmm. Yep, she's
So,
not given an inch here. She's
uh-uh.
any other class she wants. She has to take drawing 10 first to get into it. That's why it's called a prereq. So sorry, Felicity, you got to stick it out in that class.
Yeah, all other classes are full.
Yep, that's how it is. And in other things that fall through, Susan and Julie. Susan is the new roommate.
Oh, Susan.
That is not to be.
I love Susan. Susan is the best dressed, best put together character we have seen in this show so far.
No, I have no tolerance for Susan. Susan, when you knew your sister was moving in, call Julie.
Look, someone who looks that good doesn't have time to pick up the phone. She
Clearly
got to
not.
put the outfit on. She got to get the right color. She has to get the perfect accessories. Her makeup is amazing. Her hair is fantastic. And you know what? I don't care that she isn't going to allow Julie to stay with her because that is going to leave us with all of the enjoyment of Julie having to stay where she is.
Yeah, but okay. So are we now equating looking put together with being completely inconsiderate? Because I'm not it.
I'm
I'm not
not
down for
saying
that.
I'm not saying you have to be. I'm just saying,
Susan is.
yeah, she is both the most put together, fantastically dressed person we've seen and inconsiderate.
Yeah. Susan, I've got no time for you. I just don't.
Susan, I love
Julie's got
you.
a lamp. She had time to get a lamp. and
Yeah.
she's got the cashier's check. She took the initiative to get a cashier's check, and through all of this, Susan let her twist in the wind. She shows up. She's like, "Oh, right. You were gonna move in. Sorry, not happening." Ugh, Susan. I'm gonna give it an award. I mean, I never know what these awards are gonna be until they come out of my mouth. But Susan, just inconsiderate, most inconsiderate potential roommate award. Talk about potential roommates. If you're interviewing at Susan's apartment, just say no. Okay? Gosh, Susan. what was so freaking hard about calling Julie? But yeah,
I'm
Julie
not gonna
shows
give
up.
you, I'm not giving Susan an award, but I'm still gonna say, like, whoever dressed Susan, please make your way into the rest of the cast. Even though they
Well,
all
but
have
Susan
improved.
Susan was dressed for work. Susan was like in a like suit, right?
Yeah, but the color, the cut, the accessories, the hair, the makeup, all of it.
Yeah.
Just do that for other people that
Yeah.
are going to continue in the show.
Yeah. And then give Susan some of their sense of responsibility.
Or don't, because frankly, had Julie moved in with Susan, we wouldn't have what I'm kind of assuming is going to be a triangle situation, but
Okay.
maybe not after hearing from you.
Yeah. Well, okay. So that was just a little quick thing. Susan gets all, so sorry. So I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. And Julie's like, fine. And she just leaves because
And we
Susan
just
doesn't
like to
need any
point
more
out,
courtesy.
just want to point out one more time, Melissa and I both strong reactions to the same moment, completely opposite.
Yeah. Yeah. We're almost never in alignment, but it's great because I love you. That's how it is.
I love you too.
And that we agree on. Da, da, da,
We
da, da, da.
do.
I don't know what that theme song was. It was the Fish and
It
Melissa
was
Love Each Other.
fantastic. That's what it was.
Yeah. Uh, I do what I can. It
Yeah,
was an original score.
it was fun.
Anyway, now we get back to Felicity and Noel.
Hmm.
And Noel couldn't drop the class. Actually, she showed up at his apartment now, right?
She showed up at the apartment. Yep, and
Yeah.
Richard wasn't there to
Thank
shut the door in her
goodness.
face.
Yeah, yeah. She's not sending blondes, she's sending herself.
Yeah,
And she says, "Look, Noel, can we talk? Here's the deal. I
yeah,
couldn't
he's
drop the
not happy.
class. Uh, how can we get through this? How do we do it?"
Yeah, and Noel's face here, just amazing. He's so mad. He's so bitter. He's sad. I mean, for all the times that he has said, I want absolutely nothing to do with you. I don't want to see you again. What really comes out of his mouth here is, I want to know why. Like, what is it that this Ben guy has that I don't? Because remember in season 1 where I said, this guy and all the girls, what?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is it?
Yeah.
And I love Felicity's reaction in this moment where she doesn't answer him. She just says, and she doesn't answer him, and she doesn't say, I don't know what it is he has. What she says is, there's nothing I can say that is going to help or to make this better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This is easily my favorite scene from the whole episode. And
Hey, I agree.
one of the um these two actors had a lot to pull off in this scene because I think this is a pivotal scene in the transition of their vibe. Like if you consider the starting point of this episode, they're both sitting down at the bar with Elena. Noel just saw Felicity's hair for the first time, and he's just ripping into her over and over with one mean remark after another. That's where he started this episode. They're going to end in a very different place And the transition to me happens here in this scene. And, when she knocks on the door, he's like, you again. Like you can see his face is like an, you again sort of face. She says, I couldn't drop the class. He's like, you again and again and again. And then she's like, how do we get through this? And he's like, we just can't. I don't know. And then something shifts here because he's like, I just don't know how we can get through this. And then we go from whatever the energy was at the start. By the end of this scene, I just wrote completely quiet. And there's this transition that happens where it's like the first thing Noel actually says to her to really show he takes off the veneer, the anger, the snarkiness, and he just goes straight up vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, every time I see you, it's another reminder that you chose Ben over me. And for me, the way he read that felt almost not resigned, but like, this is it, like, this is what I'm thinking about. And then he says the question you just asked, what it is about him or about me.
Mm-hmm.
And she gets really quiet because I think this is the conversation she's been looking to get to, which is like, just to be able to have this chat, like this is what this problem really is. And like you said, she doesn't name anything that was a problem with Noel or that was great about Ben. She eventually rolls around to, what if I told you it was a huge mistake that I never should have gone with Ben? So she's not really saying it, but she's saying, what if I told you? And then Noel, with just that little note of snarkiness still, is like, you're just saying that because he broke your heart. And that hurts Felicity bad. And she's just sitting there looking down, and he can see it. And she just whispers, Noel, what do you want me to say? He's like, I don't know. And they're almost like, it's like the whatever energy that they had at the start, it's dialed down to this very quiet, whispery zero of just sort of, these are the facts. It's like a reset button for them too, in a way, but quietly pushed.
Oh, wow. I can see where you are coming from. And this is also my absolute favorite scene.
Mm-hmm.
And what I wrote at the end of it was train wreck of a conversation.
Wow.
Right. Because what I saw was, Noel being so mad and so upset at the beginning to exactly what you said, becoming vulnerable, asking for this explanation. Her saying, look, there is nothing I could say, but this is what he wants. And so she says, what if I said basically, what she thinks he wants to hear? What if I said it was a huge mistake? And his response is, I know that's a lie, which it is. And she just shakes her head and says, like, what do you want me to say? Like, anything that comes out of my mouth is just going to hurt you more.
Mm-hmm.
And you keep hurting me. And then she leaves. And so to me, that is not the moment that things shift for them. It is just a moment where they get really raw, and I feel like it could have gone in a direction of Felicity gets it and just doesn't try to hang out with Noel anymore. I think it's actually two scenes later that things change. So I think we can talk about it then.
Gosh, I would absolutely love to hear from listeners on this because I know
Yes.
our listeners know this show really, really well. And you all have your theories about it. And I'm really interested to see how you interpret like the back half of this episode in terms of the Felicity and Noel stuff. Because Fish, you and I mean, It's interesting. We both loved this scene and we both took completely different interpretations of it. Again, not a surprise.
Yeah.
Um, but they mean really different things and how we looked at
Mhm.
them. And we thought they were good for totally different reasons. So what did you all think about this? Just a quick reminder, email us, the melissafish@gmail.com. It's Melissa with one L, two S's, the melissafish@gmail.com. Probably say that again at the end. But yeah, this is obviously a really important episode in terms of resetting the foundation for Noel and Felicity. So, how did you look at all this happening? I think with your interpretation, Fish, this is an unsatisfying conversation with Noel, uh, for Noel. Felicity may be seeing that there isn't really a way forward if Noel isn't willing to let any of this go.
Yeah.
And then it's the art class stuff that gets us to a more workable place.
No, it's actually the conversation with Ruby where Noel apologizes and then Ruby starts talking about computers, and all of a sudden he gets kind of excited. And I wrote "talk nerdy to me" there, which I thought
Mm-hmm.
was cute.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like excited about another person that isn't Felicity and isn't just, drunk while he's desperate, like, poor Beth.
Mm-hmm.
And he says this line, "You're a Mac person."
Mm-hmm.
And he's got this energy for another person, and that is putting him in the better emotional state where he can now reach out in the art class and start to kind of heal and be able to be in a place that he can start being around Felicity again, because you know there's another woman who he's interested in,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
um, and who was bringing what, at least part of what Felicity did to his life. I think it helps with his ego, um, and that new person interest.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. I mean, I think that Ruby coming into the picture certainly helps the process, but I think so in how I look at the scene that we were just looking at with Felicity and Noel in his apartment, I feel like they've sort of cracked open the main issue. Um, I think they've aired the dirty laundry. I think apologies can still be made on either side, but I think this is too early to say them because I think this conversation was about getting the most vulnerable, raw stuff out there. And I think they do it here. And I think the second half of this is the next scene in the art class where, well, I guess not quite the next one, but after Felicity gets her art critiqued so harshly and Noel stands up for her, and then Noel and Felicity have that conversation, that next conversation where she does apologize. And I feel like this is a two-part conversation, but this is the part where the really raw stuff all spilled out, some of it in words and some of it in just like downward looks and feelings, and seeing how each was reacting to the other. And then I think it enables us to go into that second half of the conversation a little bit later where it's like, okay, we're making a choice from here. We can either stay in this space forever, because I think if I look at it like they get down to a quiet zero of a whisper sort of conversation, they now can either stay there forever or start to rebuild.
I agree with that. And I think what allows them to start to rebuild is Noel coming around,
Mm-hmm.
because Felicity's already there.
Yeah.
And the only way that Noel comes around is because of what happens with Ruby.
Yeah.
Because I feel like without that moment with Ruby, Noel does not try to make any kind of nice comment in class. about Felicity's work. And then, you know, um, Felicity at that point may not continue to approach Noel. And I think it's two things. I think it's the conversation with Ruby, and it's also Noel figuring out Bridgid telling him that she's gay. And so, hey, it wasn't Felicity who was sabotaging you. She didn't get in the way of Bridgid. Like, he's realizing she wasn't so integrated, in that part of his life, that wasn't a thing. And so I think between realizing that it was not Felicity's fault that Bridgid didn't want to go out with him, and also this interest in Ruby, he can then say something nice, and then the two of them can come together and start to have that conversation.
Yeah, I would say I agree that those things were important. I would add to it, though, that I do think in this conversation, at the moment when he says, "You're just saying that because Ben broke your heart," it's like the last thing he says to her that's just still a dig. And it's the dig. And she just looks down and she goes all the way to a whisper and she's like, "What do you want me to say?" And he sees how much he just hurt her and it doesn't feel as fun anymore, is what I interpreted that to be. So I think that was the pivotal moment for me where he has the last dig, the big dig, and it lands in a way that he's like, I am not. It's like he realizes like there isn't sport in this anymore. Um, and
Yes.
I and I think from there they start to, yeah, there are these other things that are happening that help to get him in a more distracted, better headspace. But I think he doesn't need to say more stuff to hurt her because he just said that thing and he saw how it landed and it had a big impact. And you know, and we will see the transition happen somewhere around here, right? Because when he does defend her in the art class, there's obviously a new emotion springing up for him. Somewhere between this, the scenes that you talked about, and that he's going to go from feeling this need to dig at her to um, being defensive of her.
Yeah, and I guess I didn't quite see it as a dig the same way that you did. The question on the table was, you know, tell me what it is about me and him,
Mm-hmm.
right? Why did you pick him? And her, you know, her answer has basically been, you know, what if I told you it was all a big mistake? I should have chosen you, blah, 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 blah. And for me, that moment, what Noel was saying wasn't, you know, meaning to be a dig. It was more, I don't, like, I wouldn't believe you,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, I don't believe you
Yeah.
if you say something like that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you're saying it because Ben broke your heart, which I don't see it as a dig because it's not a surprise, right? A dig is something like, you know, um, Ben dumped you because of, and then says something mean. Like,
Mm-hmm.
everyone's aware of the fact that Ben dumped her, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, maybe it calls, the hurt a little bit back to her in that moment. And I think that is part of it. But
Mm-hmm.
I feel like she gets really quiet because she's hurt that Noel and her, she's feeling that Noel and her are not going to be able to get back to a place of friendship.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what's hurting her and she's missing
Mm-hmm.
because later, I mean, she says to him, like, you were the closest person to me.
Mm-hmm.
And and so when I see that scene, it's really more about her and Noel and her feelings about him rather than, I guess, a dig and him trying to hurt her and her feelings about Ben.
Yeah. Well, let's because we've been pulling from so many scenes, so let's keep moving through the chronology to like make sure we're saying what we need to about each of them. But I do just again, this stuff this feels really important in this episode,
Yeah,
and I would really like to know anything listeners have to say about this. How did you interpret it? What did you feel? Um,
absolutely.
Obviously, most of the listeners who are really big fans, you know, things that are coming ahead, but try to remember this. Go watch it back. Like, watch this scene for what it is, and what do you see from it? Watch these scenes, like the whole back half of this episode, maybe the whole episode, and see what you think about it, because I'd love some other thoughts on it. There will be one piece of feedback later that I'll share, but I don't think it perfectly addresses what we're talking about. Um, but we're going to go from here back to some sort of lightness. There's another roommate interview happening at the loft.
Oh,
Preston is in the
man,
house.
Preston. I'm
Um,
loving Preston. I mean, sorry, Julie, don't let the door hit you on the way out.
well, Preston is designed to be the answer to all the problems Sean had about Andrew. He doesn't have flippy hair.
Nope.
He's cooking. He could potentially cook for these two every day, you know, for Sean and Ben every day since he's in chef school, culinary school. And he compliments the apartment.
Did you see how big a grin was on Ben's face?
Yeah. It's like, hear
I
that,
just love
Sean?
that. Love it.
Yeah. It's like, looks like this guy did compliment the apartment, eh? Yeah. And then you know, Julie walks in while this is happening, having come from Susan. Uh,
Oh,
you
Susan.
know, Susan. Susan in her suit and her inconsiderateness. Julie is coming straight off of that into this apartment, seeing the potential new her interviewing. And, you know, this guy's like, yeah, I could make food for you every day if I get this apartment. And Sean, you know,
Partake.
he doesn't want to let it go with Julie. He doesn't want to let her feel like you know, she's inferior here. So he's like, yeah, Julie, you make a mean bowl of cereal though. Um, yeah. And
Yeah. Sean's thirsty. He hasn't had a drink in a while, and he's just making it real obvious. But there's a moment as Julie walks away where Ben is looking after her. And they give you a nice close up of Ben, kind of watching her walking away, still thinking she's leaving.
mhm.
So I just picked on these little moments, and I don't know, maybe it's just in my head, but I thought there was a look.
We'll see how that bears out.
I'm guessing not very well.
um, that was a quick moment. There's so many quick scenes that happen here because then we'll go to another quick scene. Now, Noel sees Ruby, and I was trying to figure out, is this Epstein Bar or is this a random unnamed cafe?
I thought it looked like some coffee shop somewhere.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too, but they didn't really give us, they just put us straight there and it didn't feel like Epstein Bar.
No, it
Um,
didn't.
but they haven't, I don't know what this location was. Um, they had like tables, it wasn't booths. I don't know. It was, all
Yeah,
right.
let's call it alternate coffee spot.
Yeah, alternate coffee spot number two. I don't know. Let's just make it fun.
Okay.
So the main thing here, last time Noel saw Ruby, Richard had just slammed the door in her face, and she just ran off pissed. And so he approaches her and he apologizes for being a jerk. She's like, "Yeah, you were a jerk,"
Yeah,
but she
she
does it in
was.
a sweet way, but still like a "Why are you at my table?" kind of way. And he's like, well, so how did things go with the computer? And now she's animated and she's ready to get into it. Well, I went to the computer store. I was thinking about buying she mentioned something that he was like, no. No, it's the worst possible thing. She's like, well, I didn't buy that because then I was talking to the guy and then he told me, and then she starts spitting out all these random computer details, which is music to Noel's ears. And then she starts talking about the iMac and Susan's like, what did you end up doing? And she's like, well, I bought the iMac. And then you see the little heart eyes.
Yep. Yep.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
Noel's face became the heart eyes emoji, if that were a thing at that time, which it weren't, but he originated it with this scene.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's like, you're just, you're a Mac person.
That's right.
Like, you're not like that Hannah who went from being a Mac person to a PC person.
Or Felicity, who didn't even have a computer.
Yeah, who just came borrowed mine. You did research. You know
Uh-huh.
about backside buses and all
Uh-huh.
sorts of other things, and then you became a Mac person.
Yep. And in my mind, all that was playing over and over again was talk nerdy to me.
Yeah, this was Noel's version of foreplay for sure.
Absolutely.
The hard eyes, the heart eyes.
Yeah. Yep. This is the moment that started to melt his icy heart and bring them up to be in his eyes.
Yeah, there it is.
You didn't need to be so hurt anymore
Yeah.
because here's a nice, beautiful blonde Mac person that was sent to you by your ex. Because,
Yeah.
of course, your exes always send you women.
Yeah. That. I think also something that he sees from her in this scene is how quickly she just lets it go. She just lets it roll right off her back. She met him. He was a jerk. So was Richard. They literally slammed the door in her face.
Not
And Noel was
they.
not much better than Richard, as she says. And that's how she met him. So she would be well within her right to be like, get out of my face. And instead, this is where the conversation goes. She becomes animated. She talks about computers and you know, she just lets it roll off her back. And maybe that's something Noel wants around.
Yeah, he's had some serious relationships with, you know, some serious women. And
Yeah.
maybe it's just nice to have someone who's easy to get along with.
And isn't going to hold to something against him as simple as slamming a door in her face. I mean, it is a change of pace for him and one that seems like he's excited about. So, so there's that. And then we're going to see Elena and Felicity have a conversation.
Yep. I mean, Elena and Felicity declare their best friendhood.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but Elena, she's feeling a little abandoned.
Yeah, it really occurs to me you're not coming back to pre-med to lab.
Yeah. I mean,
And that's it. She doesn't feel good about it, but she's also proud of Felicity for sticking to a tough decision.
yeah. And she gets a look at her artwork and she's like, that's uh drawing.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty
It's
good.
it's all right.
Mm-hmm. Which is not a sentiment to be echoed by many in this episode. So thank goodness for Elena. Um, yeah. So I think, I don't know, it was a nice moment of friend support.
Yeah.
And
And I
Felicity.
loved her shirt. It reminded me of the Billabong shirts,
Oh.
but it was in this really nice color of pink. And so, I just, in general, Elena, great choices.
Okay.
Great choices with clothing.
All right. Well, from here, Felicity goes into her official art critique, which she's been nervous about. She's been anxious about for much of the episode, and she had reason to be because Professor Sherman does not let up on
Mm,
her.
I only wrote 3 words for this. Fail, big fail.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, and it was hard. It was hard to watch. I think it was meant to be hard to watch because they didn't give you like a couple comments. They made you linger in it, and they made you linger on Felicity's face. And then Professor Sherman says, makes her first comment, and then she's like, that's the first failing of this piece, and then she like keeps going into things, but then she starts soliciting other failings of the piece from people in the room, and everybody has something to say. Bruce chimes in with some stuff. Somebody else is saying that it doesn't feel like you can move the hands. They don't feel it. And then Professor Sherman's like, yeah, you can't really reach out and shake these hands, can you? Gosh, unshakable hands. Man, oh man.
Well, and the
So,
sad part is, I mean, you've got these sort of like droopy looking hands
mhm.
coming down. I mean, they do look kind of like sad hands. And then you see the backpack, and it is a really nice drawing.
Yeah, it's a really nice drawing.
And you just look at the two of them and it's like, she's not very good at
The people who
this.
actually drew these for the show, like whatever artist actually drew them, do you think that they told the one who was supposed to do the hands, like, just draw hands really badly, like
Um,
like almost good but not good? Like what, or did they just find somebody who had a drawing of not great hands?
you mean like, did they go out and spend $5 at like a yard sale and pick this
Yeah,
up and then just put it in the show?
yeah.
I don't know, but if this is in fact an artist who did this for the real world, um, I'm sorry. I'm assuming you're not listening to our podcast, but I
Yeah.
hope you have another job.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, it's like asking a gymnast to do a bad cartwheel so somebody can see what a bad cartwheel looks like. Their bad cartwheel is still going to look pretty good because,
yeah, these hands did. I mean, look, they're better than this. Look, I draw stick figures. They
uh-huh,
don't even have hands.
yeah,
So it's like so much better than that.
yeah.
But in comparison to like real world artists,
Mhm.
like those are pretty bad hands.
Yeah. So we haven't really let up on Felicity very much here. So everybody's just coming down on Felicity. You can watch her face. Felicity has put a lot into this. She's, you know, abandoned her major and
Yeah.
she's gone all in on art, and she kind of needs it to work. And for her first critique to go like this doesn't feel all that good. And then Noel's as but I think part of what was so important, this scene really drags out. People keep piling on, and as people keep piling on, sometimes we're seeing Felicity's face, sometimes we're seeing Noel's, and Noel is really feeling how Felicity is feeling in this moment. You can see that it's like, I've been picking on her all this time, but it's not okay for all of you to pick on her. And so he's now in a space where you can see him starting to feel like, ooh, should I, ooh, ooh. And then when he does speak up, he says something in defense of her work. And it honestly doesn't matter what he says. Like, Professor Sherman disagrees from an artistic standpoint of whatever he said. But the fact that he spoke up for her is the best thing that could have happened in that room outside of the art critique.
Yeah.
So, like, if all this is going to go horribly wrong, he was the one thing that could have saved it in the moment for her. So, he speaks up on her behalf. He just says the one thing. It's immediately shot down by Professor Sherman, but you can see that little spark in Felicity's eye. She's like, "Oh, that I'm registering that. That was nice." And then she immediately gets more piling on for the rest of the students, and she's like sunk back down. But she registered it. She noticed.
Yeah, she looks over at him and she smiles. And I don't think the smile is about the art. Um, the
It's like a
smile
thanks for
is,
defending me.
yeah, exactly.
You were
And
there.
she goes up later and she's like, I didn't think the detailing was so bad.
Yeah, that's the thing he mentioned, um, and this is an
Oh,
interesting scene because I think she's now gone right into being Felicity and Noel in a way in this scene. Like she she says, I didn't think the detailing was so bad, like you said. And then he's like, you know, Professor Sherman's known for being really hard on people. And from this point, they kind of start to fall back into like this. The rest of this scene could have been a scene from season one, like the riffing over whether she's psychotic or having a psychotic break. Um, where she's like, I think I'm having a psychotic break. He's like, I don't think you are. She's like, well, wouldn't if you're having one, wouldn't the people around you say you're not? He's like, okay, fine, you're having a psychotic break. And like they have this, and he's like smiling a little more, and so is she. And she's mentioning like, I haven't even told my parents about all this. Like this, the rest of this scene feels like it could have come out of season one, but here it is in this part of season two, and we're, I guess, back to a place where they can have a conversation like this.
Yeah, I think it starts off a little tentative.
Mhm.
I mean, he has made the first move,
Mhm.
right? He has said something nice. And he's come up to her after class when she's looking at her painting. Like she did not approach him.
Mhm.
And so she makes a comment that, he could have just walked right past her, right? Like I don't feel like she's being super in his face.
Mhm.
But she does make an opening comment. I thought I didn't think the detailing was that bad. And it does allow him and her to start to have that interplay. She starts confiding in him,
Mhm.
which is a little more, she's like, maybe I am bad at this, um, and and they do have that nice kind of back and forth, which I agree feels very old them. Um, and then they get into this part where they're talking about her hair,
Mhm.
and he's like, your hair's not so bad, and he clearly does hate it.
Mhm.
And she says, what was I thinking? He's like, well,
Mhm.
yeah, it'll grow back. And that is, for me at least, that is not at all what she was talking about. She was talking about what she did to Noel.
Yeah, and then she says that, she what was I thinking? Oh, I'll grow back. She's like, that's not what I meant. She it's her apology to him. It's
Yeah,
not that
and
she would
I
have done things differently. It's that she's sorry she hurt him.
exactly.
And um and she said that needed to be said. She said it.
Hmm.
I think it was the thing left unsaid from their prior conversation. And it's happened now. And so we dip into that moment of like we had the lighter part of the conversation, and then we have that which is a little heavier. But then we have a button at the end of the scene, which is Noel just saying, turns out Bridget's gay, by the way. And she's
Yep.
like, I know. And then we just kind of leave them there. But
But
it's
I
such
think
a
it's
different
important.
place.
Yeah, I think it's important that he brings that up, at least from my interpretation of all of these scenes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that, it wasn't another rejection. Pizza Girl did not, reject him, and then Felicity did not sabotage him. Richard is just wrong on all levels. Richard has been incorrect.
Richard has given bad advice
Very bad.
consistently.
Yes.
Yes. I think I'm just gonna. I know there's a little bit more to this episode. I just want to mention because I've been debating where to do this, but I guess my note from an optimist here. Um, I'm gonna say, in relation to Felicity and Noel, somehow we get to a point where they're seeing through to the core of this relationship. I think by the time we get to the end of this episode, wherever you think that transition happened, they've both done things to hurt each other. Um, and the list is longer than others, but I think at some point along the way, they ask themselves, do I want this person in my life or not? Do I want this to be workable or viable or not? And at some point, it looks like they both have said, there's something here. There's still the kernel of this friendship or whatever this is. And, they could have walked away at the end of the one scene where it was like, the quiet scene that you and I disagreed what it meant. That could have been the place where they stopped this altogether. Like they could be in this art class together and never talk, and then just go their separate ways. And it seems like they're deciding not to do that because at the end of the day, despite all the things that have happened between them, Felicity and Noel is still a really important relationship to each of them. And I think coming at this from that place will allow them to find a healthier way forward, or some sort of healthy way forward. And they had to make the decision that the relationship itself was important to maintain in some form. So I like it that they're able to start cutting out some of the emotion and some of the what happened and who did what to who, and start to get back to the root of it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree that they definitely could have walked away from each other after that conversation, and that it is a choice that every party gets to make, right? On whether or not to have a relationship, and you actually have to make a choice and put effort in and things like that. So I like that you're calling that out, and I'm glad they're gonna continue to work it out and hopefully get back to some of that banter and stuff like that. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see this transition into maybe a real friendship. I mean, I guess Noel's always going to be pining for her in some way or another, but I don't know. It seems like we're probably going to see Noel dating other people. We're probably going to see Felicity dating other people, and like the same thing is going to happen with Felicity and Ben. So I mean, I don't know. I'm excited to see how these relationships go forward
Mm-hmm.
from this point, and what that really looks like. I mean, obviously there's gonna have to be some sort of similar reckoning between Felicity and Ben for them to be able to be friends.
Mm-hmm.
Because she has like rearranged her whole life to just avoid him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So there's going to be a lot of stuff that needs to get patched up this season. And I think it's a really interesting season. And we'll see what you think about it as it comes along. But I think you're predicting that there are going to be other dating interests involved for multiple people here. And I think that's part of what makes it interesting to me.
Well, I would hope so, because if she just goes back and forth between Noel and Ben, I mean, at some point, that's going to get old.
Yeah. And they're going off of that grid right now.
Yeah.
For all of them. And I think that'll allow them all to mature in a different way. So yeah, but we have just a little bit more of stuff that happened in this episode. An important one being the next scene at the loft,
Yes.
where we're just getting a look at the morning routine. And you had mentioned this earlier, so it seems like you like this scene.
I did. What really stood out to me initially when this scene started was they have a giant wok just sitting on their counter.
Hmm.
I don't see either Sean or Ben ever using or purchasing a giant wok. Like, why?
Maybe
And
Preston
I'm
left
sorry,
his.
but like Preston Preston was doing eggs.
Yeah.
Oh,
Look, they need props in this space. All right. It's a big space. Sometimes you got to walk. Yeah.
It was so weird. But anyway, after I got over the walk shock, um, they're doing their routine thing. Everybody's doing the coffee. I think Sean's doing the coffee and getting the milk, which is actually lactate. And so we know somebody is lactose intolerant, and everyone else jumping on the bandwagon.
Mhm.
Um, and Julie's getting the bowls, and Ben's getting the cereal. Captain Crunch, shout out, loved it. Um, and they've divided up the paper. Everything is just, I mean, it's just the way Ben likes it right now.
Mhm.
Everything is just working like a fine-tuned machine. And so he
And this is a
says,
wordless scene, right? For the first
yeah.
minute, maybe.
Hmm.
Like from the moment we see Sean coming down from his loft room, and then everybody comes out of their respective rooms, and they're all just like groggily starting to slip into what appears to be their everyday normal routine that they all know. They're perfectly synced up. They know each other so well.
Exactly. And for any of you who have watched Frasier, this reminds me of a scene with Daphne and um, Frasier's father, where they have the same thing going on in the morning, where they're walking in the same place, somebody opens a door, I think they're toasting bread or something, like everything goes perfectly. And then a bowl gets broken, and so it's a different color bowl the next day, and everything goes wonky.
Oh.
Like eggs are dropped and toast is thrown on the ground, and it's just a mess. And so Ben does not want this lovely routine to become just a mess. And so he says, you know, why don't you just stick around, Julie? I mean, I know you have this other apartment,
But what he
but
actually says is, I'm not the biggest omelet fan.
that
And
is
then
what
he
he
gives Sean
said.
a knowing look, and Sean gives him a knowing look. And they're speaking in code to be like, hey, are you okay with this, Sean? Are you okay with this, Ben? And Julie has no idea what this is, but they have just in code confirmed that they are both okay with inviting Julie to stay. And then Ben invites Julie to stay.
That's very nice coded communication.
Yeah.
Um, yes, I
Men.
forgot that is how he said it.
I'm not the biggest Alma fan. We know what you mean. Yeah, yeah. It's like Preston doesn't need to be the third person here. Sorry,
But
Preston.
we're keeping his walk. Um, and Julie, I mean, she she didn't even bother to mention she doesn't have a place anymore. She's like, I mean, I can do you that favor. Like, sure, I'll stick around. I mean, clearly your lives are better because I'm here. And and again, for me, it just feels like it's setting up this triangle. It feels like the Sean, Ben, Julie of it all is
Mhm.
gonna be something.
Yeah.
But I guess I'm wrong, which happens a lot. So
Sometimes I spoil things for you, sometimes I don't. I mean, yeah, this might be one
just
of
the
those times I
way,
just, yeah.
well, the way earlier you said something like, let's see how that pans out for you. Made me think maybe this is not the way that this is going to end up.
Okay.
But I
Yeah.
did. I like that little routine they went through, the way they all decided to stay together as roommates, and I I will try to get used to the walk. I mean, look, there has not been, and I'm knock on wood, I'm not gonna jinx this, but I personally have not seen any bicycle helmets
Okay.
in Felicity and Megan's room.
We're on the alert. We're on the lookout.
So I am not gonna let the giant walk become the new bicycle helmet.
Uh-huh. Okay. All right. Well, last thing to talk about in this episode, in terms of what we actually saw play out, is Noel stopping by the dorm, by Felicity's dorm, and sees her at her apartment as she's, or no, sees her at her room as she's coming out of her room. But that's not why he's there.
It's not, and I don't know why she would think it's why he's there. He
Mm-hmm.
doesn't live there,
Mm-hmm.
and he doesn't come bursting into your room like you do to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you think he's there to go sketch on the roof with you?
Yeah. Turns out that he's actually there to pick up Ruby because they're gonna do a walking tour of Bleecker Street.
That's right. They're dating or about to date,
Go
go
on a
on
first
a
date.
date.
Yeah.
And I the last note I took is, does Felicity want Noel back? Question mark.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
It's a good note to take. It's open ended. Yeah. So those were the things that happened in this episode. But Fish, we had a really important development.
Oh my goodness.
Because as they left us on a lingering shot of Felicity looking out after Noel and Ruby as they were walking away, we got, what did we get?
Oh my God. Sally. She's back.
Uh-huh.
She's communicating.
Yep.
It's a thing for this episode.
Yep.
And I'm assuming, Melissa, you're feeling better about life now that this has happened.
I goodness, her voice was needed. Felicity has left so many unanswered tapes for Sally. It is
So
about
many.
time that Sally responded. And
Mhm.
thank goodness. So we have Sally responding back. And so for those of you who've come to love our what the club did they say segment, we're taking an episode hiatus from that one to instead do our what Sally said, what Sally meant segment. And I'm going to set this up for you all that we've got this episode and one other episode where Janine Garofalo did a voiceover, which sadly enough is not going to be until season 2, episode 11, 8 episodes from now. So I'm going to continue to rant and rave about this probably for a little while and then never again because they're going to abandon the device at some point.
Yeah.
But so what Sally said versus what Sally meant. I will tell you what Sally said, but Fish knows what Sally is really thinking. And Fish, we need you here. We need
Yeah.
you.
I mean, she's got some explaining to do.
Yeah.
And we'll get a little insight, a little bit.
Well, anything you can share is more than she shared with us. So we're relying on you as our resident Sally Thoughts expert to let us know what's been going on for her all this time. All right. So here's what she said. She says, Dear Felicity,
I have some big news. I'm dead.
it was great to get your tape.
I've been watching over you, and I'm allowed to contact the living exactly once.
You have to send me pictures of your new haircut.
I can see your hair right now. I am using my once in an afterlife chance to reach out because you clearly need it.
I think it was really brave what you did. Not just dropping pre med, but making that decision to do the thing you've always wanted to.
Your other life choices are amazing. Your hair is bad. Really, really bad.
I'm a firm believer in the power of change.
Your clothes, your makeup, your room, all great changes.
But there is one thing I've learned, and that's that the hardest part about moving forward is not looking back.
And don't worry, your hair will grow back by season 3.
Okay. Well, at least that's a little bit of an explanation for us. She's dead.
She's dead, and I mean, I have no idea what happens in season 11. So
Or
I may
episode
have
11.
backed myself. Sorry, season 11. Huh. Episode 11. So I may have backed myself into a corner with this whole only allowed to contact the living once thing, but I feel like Sally will explain during that episode why she's able to do it again.
Yeah. That's going to be an interesting episode. I was just reflecting with Fish that Help for the Lovelorn is a very weird episode for Sally to reappear in my opinion. And we will see what we all think about that episode and what Sally has to say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I mean we've answered the major question of why she's not getting back to Felicity,
Which we
but
needed to.
Felicity doesn't know that. That's not what was on the tape.
Yeah. Well, it's good to have her back, undead and all. Oh my gosh. Well, we have a couple pieces of feedback that I wanted to share. One perhaps more flippant than the other. So, from Instagram, we had a little while back pulled out. So, every episode that we post a top, a notable line from it. And there was one that we had posted for season 1, episode 20, which was actually a line from Abby. Hey, remember Abby? Yeah. So she had a line where she's like, "We're not here to talk about your hair, Felicity." And
That's
so
right.
that was the line that we had pulled. And most people got snarky about it. And then we heard from at Renata Nadab on Instagram. Hopefully that's how you pronounce your name. And Renata said, "We apparently were." Because of the fact that when she cut her hair, everyone started not liking her and the show ended. I mean, it didn't end, but point taken, Renata. When Abby said we're not here to talk about your hair, Felicity, she was dead wrong.
Yeah, we
Dead
are
wrong.
here. I mean, we've been talking about her hair. Sally talked about her hair. I
And people have
mean,
been talking about Felicity's hair for decades now. So,
yeah,
um, too true.
good,
Very meta
good point.
observation. Yeah,
Yes.
I like that. We also have a comment, and this one I wanted to take your temperature on this one, Fish, because we had another note from at Vanessa Manet. Um, so, and this was in reference to the fact that Felicity didn't choose Noel at the end of season 1. And she was making a point that, okay, she says, and Felicity was not Noel's first choice when it came to Hannah both times. So that plays out in her choice. Her dream guy asking for her to drive around the country or going to Berlin for a guy that made you his second choice. So that's how Vanessa was looking um, at these options that Felicity had. Dream guy asking you on a road trip, or guy who chose Hannah twice. Um, so I think that's an interesting way to boil this down. I hadn't really thought of it in those terms. What do you think about that, Fish?
Yeah, I hadn't thought about it in those terms either. I I guess it doesn't change my assessment of her choosing Noel because the reason for me, because I would have had her choose Ben all day long
Mm-hmm.
until those last few episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And my reason for her choosing Noel at that point wasn't that Noel was that great,
So he
because
wasn't
we
Ben.
just been through that whole season saying, Noel's not that great.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I just have a red line when it comes to, you know, starting to get violent
Mm-hmm.
and, he's pretty unpredictable. He's, you know, gambling. He's getting beat up on really clean streets,
Mm-hmm.
and
Even if
they're
the beatdowns
they're
are quick.
even if they're super quick, it's
Yeah.
still a beatdown.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, there's just a red line there in terms of the type of relationship that I want to have and someone that I feel safe with. And that means both physically and emotionally safe. And and I said it wasn't a great choice at the end of the season, but
Mm-hmm.
if I had to pick one over the other, I pick physical safety.
Yeah.
Um, it is what it is for me.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think so that's a way that you can definitely take that comment. And the thing that stood out to me more than sort of the Noel versus Ben of it was the Noel, and I think it's relevant for this episode too, because Noel's asking her the question, why Ben, why not me? Like, what about me? Well, I guess that's the same exact thing that Felicity would have been thinking, so when Vanessa says that Noel chose Hannah twice, I'm thinking of the twice being um, when they go on the maybe date
Yeah.
in season one, and then he's like, okay. So really, like, I'm in a relationship, it's an open relationship, and her name is Hannah. I guess that would be first choice, and second time he chooses her is in the fugue when Hannah comes back and uh, Felicity re-enters Kelvin Hall and finds Noel is exiting with Hannah and
Mhm.
has effectively chosen her. So I think if we look at those as the two times that Vanessa's saying Noel chose Hannah over Felicity, even though he undid those choices, his first instinct was to say, I need to explore this thing with Hannah. So, you know, and she didn't necessarily take him all the way to task for that because right on the back of that, she sleeps with Eli and that becomes a thing.
Mhm.
Um, but I guess it does beg the question like, well, if you're wondering why I chose Ben over you, like the same thing, like it's for the same reasons that you chose the Hannah, you know? Um,
I don't, I definitely don't think it's for the same reasons. I mean, his thing with Hannah was history, right? It was
mhm,
it was a 2-year relationship.
mhm,
And the thing with Ben, I think, is much more about chemistry and attraction, and that she just, for some reason, she loves Ben.
mhm,
And even though she did say it about Noel, at least at this point in time, she's not in love with Noel.
mhm,
And and there's and the reason that she wouldn't ever bring up Hannah is the same reason that she didn't have anything to say in the conversation when Noel asked, you know, why did you pick Ben?
mhm.
Because nothing that she says, like the truth, is not going to help things.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So,
But ultimately, at the end of the day, for as much as Noel's, point taken from Vanessa. Thanks for sharing this comment because it really made me think. For as much as Noel's been beating this drum, like he's so into Felicity, he did make alternate
mhm,
choices a couple times, and so he can't be totally on his high horse. He's really hurt.
mhm.
Um, but he's been in a similar situation, and Felicity hasn't always been first pick. I really hadn't been thinking about that way. I hadn't looked at it that way because you really look back at season one and you think Noel's just pining for Felicity the whole time. You almost forget these blips with Hannah. Um, but you can't because
Yeah,
Hannah was there
no.
and this was the end of a really long term relationship for him. And there was a pull there. So I don't know. It's an interesting thing to think about.
Yeah, and you do wonder if something like that was going through Felicity's head because she may not have the same priorities, right? that
Mm-hmm.
any of the rest of us have. So I absolutely think, I mean, what she says to us is she knows what it would be like with Noel, and she wants to answer the question, what if?
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't bug her forever. But in essence, she's closing the door on him by answering that question.
Mm-hmm.
So part of that might be, he closed the door on us and you kind of blame me for it. Um, so, maybe it's my turn.
Mm. Yeah, but we're never gonna get that I don't think we're ever going to get that thought process from her explained to us, but really cool take to
Yeah.
think about. I like that. So yeah, so that's our feedback for today. We absolutely appreciate hearing from anybody who has feedback. I think I might just slip in here if you want to share feedback with us. Like I said, I mentioned before the email address, the melissafish@gmail.com. Again, Melissa with one L, two S's, the melissafish@gmail.com. Great for sending us feedback, Felicity fan art, and honestly, tell us what you think about what happened with Noel and Felicity in this episode, because I'm dying to hear from people who have had years to think about their own perspectives on this, or any amount of time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then if you want to join in the conversations we're having on Instagram, you can find us at Felicity Podcast. And if you want to be informed whenever we drop a new podcast episode, you can sign up for our mailing list, for our newsletter list. And you can find the link for that in the show notes wherever you're listening to this podcast. So you can sign up and we'll let you know when we drop the next one. So what I did skip over though, what did we think about this episode overall? I think I'm going to need you to start with this one, Fish.
Yeah, I think right before we get to our ratings, I think we were gonna start doing this, and I may be going rogue. Um, so um, we have not been mentioning, I guess, ever, or just
Oh,
the one
yeah.
time. But when we hear other podcasts, we hear people ask for ratings wherever you guys are listening to them, and so we would like to also make a similar request to any of our listeners that wherever you are, if you can give the episode or the overall podcast a rating, and or review if you're feeling like that. We would love that, and it would just really help us out to be able to kind of I guess get a little more visibility and have more people be able to kind of join in and listen and join the discussion.
Yeah, I mean, see, this is why we need you, Fish, because I just, what can we say about me? What can we say? I have
So
one
many
job to
wonderful
do.
things.
Gosh. Yeah, I mean, hey, look, if you rating the episode can help another Felicity fan discover a place where people are talking about the show, it's a
Exactly.
service. So thanks in advance for anybody who does that. And yeah, let's talk about our own ratings of this episode, Fish. What did you think of this one?
Yeah, so as I said at the start, I did feel like it was a little emotionally flat. But as we discussed it, I agree. There were some great lines, and there were, a couple of conversations. I continue to say Noel is MVP.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think I'll raise it a little bit. I didn't think it was the best, didn't think it was the worst. It was just kind of like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I'll give it. I think this is the first time I'm giving. Well, it may not be the first time I'm giving a point something. I think I've done 0.5s before. So I'm going to give it a 6.5 glubs, which is always my unit of measurement.
Okay. We have been, this is so far this season, we've had like probably the most variability between our ratings, maybe. That might not be true. Um, but it's about to happen here.
Oh,
So I think where I'm landing with this one, okay, first of all, what is my unit of measurement?
yes.
It is, and there were some options here. I had some good choices, but I'm going with Norwegian landscape classes.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I
I
like that one.
mean, yeah, that's a good one.
I felt really happy about that one.
Yeah.
I'm going 8.6 with this. Much
Wow.
higher than I thought I was going to come in with this before getting into the episode. But I think I'm really coming around on ancient history because the Felicity and Noel stuff is so good. Like
Yeah.
it's It's so good. And I I would watch this episode just for that. I also think, the comedic stuff of just all the roommate interviews was awesome. And then, like you said, that closing scene within the loft where we get maybe almost a minute of silence. The
Mhm.
show doesn't do that kind of thing a lot with just the really quiet, we're watching people in a space. And I thought that played very well and showed us everything it needed to. Um, I also think that I appreciate why you feel this one is flatter. And I think that's why I don't always think about this episode. Like, I don't get excited about this episode on a reach watch usually because we just came off of two. Maybe if you look back at the end of season one, too, like three, four, five really explosive episodes, really tense episodes. And this one is about we're hitting this reset button and we're going to have to earn that kind of payoff again if we're going to get to it. And so this is really about letting things simmer, starting to let some of these relationships heal or get to a new place so that we can throw more attention at them later in some other way. And so I think it was a really important episode. And I believe if that is the objective, that they did it really well. Also, we heard from Sally again. So thank you, Sally, for coming back. Even though it's probably the shortest tape you've ever left for Felicity, and shame on you for that, because you've got like 10 episodes worth of explaining to do.
Hey,
Still,
don't speak ill of the dead.
glad to have you back. Yes. Okay, fair point. But yeah, so 8.6 out of 10 Norwegian landscape classes for me.
Nice. Yeah. Um, I agree. I mean, I think the stuff with Noel was great. I mean, there are a lot of great moments when you look back and you think about them, but on actually watching it, my experience was less. And you're right, it's completely necessary to have the sort of lower or less intense moments so that you can have the higher intense moments. But unfortunately, that means I'm still gonna rate the less intense moments lower.
Mhm. Fair enough. Well, the next episode that we're going to talk about is going to be episode 4 called The Depths.
Oh.
What do you think that means?
Um, I think that they go on a joint scuba trip where they explore underwater caves.
Somewhere in New York.
And it's actually in the sewers, and they will find and befriend a small squid named Tabby.
My goodness. Okay. You went really specific, and that was a bold choice here, my friend.
Yep.
Love your work. Okay, so that's
I'm
what you think
sticking
about
with
it.
it.
I'm I don't know what I'm going to think of this episode when we get to it. Um, it'll be interesting to see how it holds up with the kind of scrutiny we give to it, but we'll see.
All right.
We'll see how it goes. Should be an interesting one. But anything else you wanted to say about this episode before we close out, Fish?
Don't think so. I think we have covered it all.
Every single piece of it. All right. Well, until next time, Fish, don't hook up with Ben while I'm gone.
I'm a fish.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.